just keeps like hitting me in the lap. So if I have a momentary,
Hi, everybody.
Hey everyone.
Oof.
Yeah.
We start off by something hitting Stephanie in the lap.
It's part of the desk here. That's all. I might have a Captain Nick moment and curse momentarily. Just have
Curse momentarily.
Well,
it's a very poor curse if it's momentary.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the APG show live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're just about ready to go. Dun, dun, dun. Let me do a sound check just to make sure that we can hear the music.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger.
Okay, you can hear that, right?
I can hear that.
Don't mess with me.
What?
No, because I think, was it the last show I was playing something and you guys said, no, don't hear anything. But you did hear something.
We did? I don't recall doing that. That doesn't sound like us.
No.
We would never be so silly.
Oh, it must have been another group of co-hosts for another podcast.
Yeah. Clearly you're confusing us with someone else.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, let's see. I need to turn this recorder on. And this recorder on. Okay. And Dynamics processor on. Okay, very good. And then back over here to the Hangouts window. Okay. And the chat room. Hello, everyone in the chat room. How's it hanging?
Mm.
We'll wait for them to get that question.
Oh, Liz, yes, Guys Over Britain. What a great series of documentaries they were. I thought they were brilliantly done, actually, and I'm pretty critical of those kind of things. I don't know if you'll ever get to see them on your public broadcast channel, Jeff, but Skies Over Britain, three great programs, and not really over Britain, but just all about aviation.
Why would we want to watch something about Britain?
About aviation.
Yeah.
You see how quickly he backed? He's like, it's not just Britain. There's a lot of flying and
there's aviation.
I got this typhoon flying, and there's I don't know, people doing wacky things in airplanes.
Typhoon flying, is that like the hurricane hunters?
Yeah, that's right. Yep, yeah. That's when you hunt it a little too closely.
Oh, first one is on YouTube, according to Liz.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check it out. Okay. Let's see. I think we are just about ready to start. Okay. Make sure that's recording. Airline Pilot Guy, episode...
Episode. What's episode?
It's the coffee episode. I'm just going to have a sip of this and
Let me try that again.
take a moment, breathe.
Thank you. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 235.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, a view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 611 in the Memphis Sheraton Hotel in beautiful downtown Memphis, Tennessee. In today's episode, more pilots arrested for impairment. ANA has problems with their 787 engines. Southwest 737 loses engine intake cowling. More news, feedback, the latest adventures of Miami Hick, and a new Plain Tales episode, Elise Anderson interview, part 1. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 235 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guys Show. My name is Captain Jeff. I am a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. I'm on a layover right now in my hotel studio, recording this show with a bunch of my friends. The first one I'll introduce is our resident doctor.
Doctor?
The flying doctor, we'll call him.
Doctor?
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 Doctor of Physiatry.
Doctor?
And
Doctor?
commercial
Doctor?
multi-engine.
Doctor?
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 Rated
Doctor? Doctor?
Well, hey, Captain Jeff. Thank you very much for that kind intro. People watching the video might notice that I'm not in my usual location, so I'm actually out traveling about this week as well. Right now, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning where I am, just a little bit earlier than where you guys are. That's because I'm in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm actually up here on a trip with my dad. Kind of a long-standing, we trying to make this trip happen for a while now. It started out because he's got 2 states left to get to in the United States to travel to. So he hadn't been to Alaska, hadn't been to Hawaii. And I was like, well, I've been to Hawaii, so I'm not going there with you. But if you want to go to Alaska, we can do that. So.
Oh, so we're doing kind of a bucket list, huh?
A little bit, yep. And got up here yesterday early in the morning, and so far we've already managed to see some beluga whales out in the harbor. We've had some excellent meals, an excellent local. We went to an excellent local brewery yesterday, and so far the highlight of the trip was we went out kind of last minute and took a seaplane or a float plane tour around Anchorage and up into the mountains and around some glaciers and snow-covered peaks, and it was really, really gorgeous, amazing trip, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the time we're here. Got a couple more days. So.
Hey, just out of curiosity, I'm speaking of bucket lists. A lot of people have on their bucket list, like skydiving, jumping out of an airplane.
Sure.
Has your dad ever done that?
He has not.
Does he wish to?
He's thinking about it, I think.
All right,
he said maybe I could do that.
Yeah,
so,
but to Alaska, probably sounds a little bit safer.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But
yeah.
All right. By the way, Steph is an accomplished skydiver amongst many, many other things. So.
I don't know if I'd say accomplished. I'd say beginner skydiver. How about
beginner skydiver. Okay, whatever. Well, you've accomplished jumping out of an airplane. In my book, that's an accomplished skydiver. So.
Absolutely, Steph. You've done a lot more than I ever will.
I don't know about that either.
Already.
Yes.
Well, you heard that voice in the background. Of course, that means we have the preeminent captain of a European airline flying the big, wide-body Airbuses all over the world, Captain Nick.
Yeah, hi there, Jeff, and hi, Steph. Isn't it great to be having a show when it's only just gone 6 o'clock in the evening? I'm nearly awake here. It's fabulous. So I'm feeling right on the button. It's brilliant. Looking forward to a fantastic show.
Yeah, just a little after 7, and that means that we actually get to talk with Nick when he's not completely sloshed, which is usually...
He's only just getting started.
Yeah, I've only cracked my first beer, so absolutely. So yeah,
experience.
And it looks like we've got some great content in the show tonight. So
we do. Absolutely. Have you done anything interesting this week, sir? Have you been flying a lot, or did you manage to get off the hook from flying anymore this month?
With those few days of blocked ears, I got a slight head cold a little while back, and they blocked my station tube and my sinuses for a little while. So I was due to be on standby. I skipped a few days because I wasn't quite well, but when I went back on standby, having declared myself fit again, the company very pleasantly, very nicely ignored me. So I'm now on my regular days off that I'm enjoying, and I don't have to fly again for nearly another week. So this is absolutely wonderful. I'm getting a very small holiday, and the weather outside, even though it's the officially in the UK the first day of autumn, 1st of September, it's gorgeous. Absolutely lovely day today. Really fabulous. So I've enjoyed myself enormously.
Very, very good. And I've just been flying a lot this week. Did a 3-day trip Monday through Wednesday. Was home for a brief amount of time last night and repacked and headed out for this 2-day. Part of, I guess, officially part of the new month for me, which started on the 31st as far as the schedules are concerned at Acme. And just a nice, easy trip, at least today. One leg from Atlanta to Memphis, Tennessee, and nice long layover for us to do a recording of the show. So pretty boring for me, which is good. Boring is good.
Well, Sonia has to do the flying, Jeff, otherwise those passengers never would. I seem to spend most of my time on the ground nowadays.
Yeah. Well, somebody must be doing it, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, need to do a couple of things, housekeeping. First of all, for those of you interested in APG swag, hopefully soon we'll be offering T-shirts again, as well as some other merchandise. We're still working out all those details right now. But I neglected to mention, well, I hadn't gotten to the official APG PO box in a while. In fact, so long that apparently they locked me out of my box the other day, but luckily I was able to convince them that I did pay for my next year's, my next year's fee for the box, and I showed them a receipt on my phone and all that. So they came out with a bunch of stuff, bunch of packages that I received. Now this one I didn't receive from my PO box. I actually received this in person from Spanish APGers Manuel Moran and Hans Dieck. And while we were there at Farnborough, they handed me this. This is thanks for the wonderful show, for the awesome crew you put together, for all the information, the rickets, the banter, the Airbus Boeing fight, the sound clips, the huge effort, and the amazing APG community you've created. Keep up the good work, clear skies and tailwinds. And included in this envelope was a CD by Mike Oldfield. Now, you may remember this guy. Let's see, I guess he composed and recorded something called Tubular Bells way back in, I don't know, was that the 70s? For the Exorcist movie? Is that when that came out in the 70s?
He did music for the Exorcist movie, but that was after.
Oh, okay.
Tubular Bells came because he was associated with Virgin Records, so Richard Branson's outfit.
Uh-huh.
And Branson had a recording studio at his mansion up near Oxford, and in the downtime when he wasn't recording genuine bands, this young bloke called Mike Oldfield used to borrow it and use his equipment, which Branson let him do for nothing. And it was during that time that he created Tubular Bells, which of course became just an enormously popular record. And Branson agreed with him a set fee for the distribution and what do you call it? The basic profits of to buy the record off him, basically. And then of course it went just mad. So Branson used the money that record created to start his own airline, Virgin Atlantic. So that's why his very first aircraft, old 747-100 or 200, really old one, was called Tubular Bell. B-E-L-L-E in this case.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Such a treasure trove of information. I had no idea. So Tubular Bells and the Exorcist movie have nothing to do with each other.
Well, Tubular Bells came out first, and then I think they used it for the soundtrack for the Exorcist.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe I made a really improper association.
Not at all. No, absolutely correct. Mike Oldfield.
Well, anyway, I guess Mike Oldfield has a bunch of other albums out there, of which I was not familiar. This one is entitled 5 Miles Out, if you're watching the video. I don't know if you can pick up that, but there's a picture of looks like a Twin Beach or something. Maybe, I'm not sure what that is.
It's hard to tell with the reflection from your...
Right, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's so they said, P.S. We hope you enjoy the CD. Maybe not Mike Oldfield's best album, but definitely the most appropriate for a captain. So
absolutely, I love it. And Maddie, I can't remember her surname, the singer. Someone in the chat will let me know. Is absolutely fantastic on that record. She does a lot of the vocals for Mike Oldfield, and
I haven't listened to. I've only listened to one track of it so far, so I look forward to listening to some more. Thank you guys for that, and also at the Farnborough meetup was Olivier Farin. He said it was a pleasure to meet you and the APG crew at Farnborough this year. It was again a great source of inspiration. An aunt visited us for 2 weeks in Switzerland and was so kind to take these chocolates with her to send it to you to Atlanta. Hope you will enjoy this Swiss specialty and hope to see you soon again in the future. And again, best regards, Olivier Farin from Switzerland. And let me grab this over here. So I've been eating them.
You're not sharing them with us?
No. Well, you know what? I'll take this. What's left here, and I'll send it to you guys, okay?
No. I'm just kidding.
All right, so thank you, Olivier, for the Swiss chocolates. Cool. Delicious. Okay, and then one more thing. I got this this book from Larry Zoller in Boston, and it's called Warbirds, Diary of an Unknown Aviator, and it's printed in 1926. It's quite old, and I've been reading it. Started reading maybe a tenth of the way through, but then when I looked at the envelope again, on the outside of it, it said, "To Captain Nick, via or care of Captain Jeff."
oh wow!
So sorry, Captain Nick. I've been reading your book.
Not at all, no. But do you think that might be suitable to create some plain tales from?
It might be. I don't know. It's like it's very interesting. It's an anonymous diary of a guy, a U.S. Citizen, heading off for Europe to fight in World War One and become a pilot and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well,
So,
I haven't had any World War One stories yet. Thinking of one,
okay.
but not
We're going
yet,
to put
so
this. We're going to put this in the APG library.
Oh yeah, I'll sign it out then when I get a moment.
Okay. We'll trade for that thing that you have of mine, and then I'll hand you this.
Oh sure, yeah. Oh, by the way, Miami Hick wants to know if the ants got to your chocolate.
I mean,
Because he
Olivier's
says
aunt?
ants always take my chocolate too.
No, actually, in this case, the aunt actually delivered the chocolate to me, or mailed it
Oh, they must be very
One of
well
those?
trained.
Okay, I'm sorry. Aunt, I guess. Is that what you're trying to get at? I'm
It's not
mispronouncing.
me that was commenting. It was Miami Hick. And, I mean, that's
Great.
pot the kettle over.
Here we go again. His aunt.
I would say ant. Also.
Me too. What's wrong with that?
Well,
Nothing.
I think it's just a bit rude to compare them with little six-legged things that go along and bite you.
Insects.
Well, in some cases, it's an apt comparison. Okay, and luckily I don't have any aunts listening to the show. All right. Anything else that we want to talk about before we move on?
No, it's just a shame Rick's not here. If he's
Yeah.
out earning some money, I got that. It's a long old trip he's got. 25 days?
Yeah, he said he was going to be gone for the next 25 days. I guess normally it's 17, but he extended, I guess there was a break in there somewhere, like 8 days, and he put in for some extra flying. So it's going to be hit and miss the next several weeks with Rick. Right now he's somewhere out over the Pacific Ocean. Where exactly? Nobody really knows.
No idea.
And probably he doesn't know either since he's in a Boeing. So
All right. Well, let's see here. Let's just play a little bit of this. The Coffee Fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. That's all I'm going to play of it. Maybe I'll get away with it. That's the ink spot. And a lot of people were expressing the fact that they were missing the actual ink spots. And I don't know, Mila, how are we coming with the APG Coffee Fund song? I hope that we'll be able to do something fun and replace the ink spots Java Jive permanently, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But anyway, so imagine the Java Jive, the ink spots singing the Java Jive in the background, while I talk about the APG Coffee Fund, which is your way to contribute to the show. And only, of course, if you have the financial resources to do so. Let me do this. Why don't we play this karaoke version in the background? So we'll have some kind of music going on there. So if you don't have, money for flying lessons and food and rent and other such necessities in life, then don't send it to us, please. But if you have all of your ratings and you have just so much money, it's just overflowing from your pockets and you don't know what to do with it, send it to the Airline Pilot Guy Coffee Fund. And information about that at airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And since the last show, we have Matt Moranto, Michael Thompson, Steve Trumbell, and Bernard Husbands. And the four of them contributed via the Coffee Fund Classic method. And again, you can find out about that, also becoming a patron via Patreon. All that information there is at airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. Again, thanks everyone for your generous contributions. By the way, not tax deductible, unfortunately. We're not a nonprofit. Oh well. So, with that, it's time for us to move on to the news.
Stand by for news.
I'd like to start off the show on kind of a somber note. We've talked about Rick and flying the Boeing 747. The man who was responsible for the engineering and design of the first wide-body aircraft, Joe Sutter, just passed away. He led a long life, though. He died at age 95 on Tuesday this week, or last week, actually. Or was it this week? I guess it was this week.
No, it was this week. It was just a couple days ago. Mm-hmm.
He was known for his bold technical designs, for tough but inspirational leadership, and for a roguish sense of humor that made him a vibrant personality. Sounds like he would have been right at home here at the APG.
Absolutely.
So we have a nice story about his life, which we'll put in the show notes, but we just wanted to mention our sadness in losing such an aviation pioneer. So Joe Sutter, age 95, passed away this week. He has flown west.
That is very sad, Jeff. But 95 is a great age, and it just gives you an indication of how old the 747 is, considering he was about 15 when he designed it.
I think some of those details might not be accurate, but we'll get into that. We'll check some of those facts out.
We do have some fact checkers that might be checking that right now. So you couldn't even let it go, huh? Just the poor guy.
Yeah, you could have said,
don't get me wrong, he designed a great airplane. I'm just a bit surprised it's still flying.
And, did we lose Jeff?
Okay.
No.
Oh,
how could it be me?
I don't.
I just did a speed test. I had 75 down and 50-something up. That's strange.
I don't know. You're back, though, so it's okay.
Yeah, obviously it was me because I didn't hear anybody.
No, yeah. Just a momentary hiccup.
Just a momentary. I thought maybe it was just my brain. That happens occasionally.
A little pause.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so moving on. Where were we?
I was just dissing the 747, but...
sorry we missed that.
Oh, it's quite all right. It's not important. I'll get another opportunity, I'm sure.
Okay. It wasn't that long ago that a couple of, Air Transat pilots got arrested or taken off an airplane in Glasgow, Scotland. And again, same location.
Same place?
Yeah, different airline. Two United Airlines pilots were arrested on suspicion of being under the influence of alcohol as they prepared to fly from Glasgow to New York. So...
I think it might be something in the water in Glasgow.
That might be.
Yeah, there's plenty of whiskey in the water in Glasgow.
Exactly.
I would not rule that out, actually. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know why guys have the propensity to even think about ruining their careers like this just for, indulging a little bit too much. Um, I don't know. 35 years old and 45 years old. They were arrested by Scottish police, and so I just don't really know what to say about this other than another couple of folks trying to ruin their careers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've talked about it a lot before, but
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible that it continues to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the thing that kind of upsets me is that there are so many people out there who would treasure a career as an airline pilot, and yet some people seem destined to treat it so lightheartedly, and with that they will do such things, and it just does worry me. I think it's very sorry for those who are trying to get a career. I think there are idiots out there holding down positions who don't seem to value it at all.
Right. Yeah, I don't get it at all. And I think most of the people that listen to this show, feel the same way.
Yeah.
Everyone, I'm sure. All right. Well, this was interesting. A Southwest Boeing 737 was flying between New Orleans, Louisiana, heading over to Orlando, Florida. I guess somewhere out over the Gulf, but they were at flight level 310. They were climbing through flight level 310 out of New Orleans, about 80 nautical miles west of Pensacola, when the front section of the left-hand engine, which was a CFM56, separated. Debris impacted and punctured the left side of the fuselage, causing a loss of cabin pressure. The crew diverted the aircraft to Pensacola for a safe landing on runway 17. The aircraft vacated the runway and taxied to the apron with emergency services following the aircraft. No injuries, but the aircraft did sustain substantial damage. There are a couple of photos here in the Aviation Herald article which showed some of the damage, and I have never seen anything like this before. It wasn't that the compressor or the fan separated and exploded. It was just like the whole front intake is gone.
Yeah, it's very... I mean, there's obviously a lot of damage internally, too, but I have no idea how something like that would even happen.
Yeah. It's
well, I've seen bits of engine... the surrounds of engines coming off before, and it's frequently caused by an overpressure, which literally blows panels out. But I flew an aircraft that was prone to it. But this looks quite remarkable. I'm really not quite sure what the hell's gone on here. But it's that big ring that surrounds the front of the engine, where often there are heating elements and things, and it really just provides an aerodynamic intake, that's a bit obvious, but to the engine, and the whole thing has disappeared and just left a raw blunt cowling around the core of the engine. So terrifying for the passengers, I thought. I didn't suppose the pilots perhaps didn't realize quite so much how much damage there was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They, I believe somebody said that, or that maybe it was a quote from one of the passengers, that they heard an explosion, and then all of a sudden, the masks started falling down. I guess a piece of the engine punctured the fuselage and caused a leak in the pressurization vessel, and they diverted. But wow, yeah, not sure exactly what happened there. Almost like, maybe I'm wondering if it had something to do with maintenance, like not securing all the fasteners properly, or so, I don't know.
I don't know. I just keep looking more. I mean, obviously, where it's separated there is, those are different pieces and components structurally. But if you look internally, there's a lot of, like, the metal just looks sheared and damaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if that would come from, if it was a maintenance issue, like you said, if that would be enough to cause that type of damage, or if it was something that started more internally and then worked its way.
You're right. It does look like metal tearing, like an explosion. Based on what I know of aircraft investigation, that does kind of look like some kind of an explosive charge or whatever. I don't know. Weird. You know, it was probably one of those explosives-filled Canadian geese up at 31,000 feet. They probably ran into one of those. That's my
Yeah, some of those geese
experts,
fly pretty high. I think the
they're kind
Hooper
of big.
swan has one of the world records of flying at well over 25,000 feet. But
Wow.
that may not be the highest flying bird, and the Hooper swan's pretty damn big.
A terror swan.
Yeah. Now, just remind me again, Jeff, who makes that 737?
Well, I'll happily remind you that the aircraft manufacturer is Boeing,
I was
and
just
the
curious.
engine manufacturer, mostly GE and a French company, Safran, I think, or I'm not sure if that's the way you
Yeah, I
pronounce
can't
that.
remember the other company.
But it's a consortium of engine manufacturers, but General Electric is a big part of that. But that's okay. We'll get back to you on another incident involving engines from a different country very, very soon. In fact, why don't we just move to that right now?
I mean, let's just group everything together. Let's keep a theme.
Why not? Let's keep on the same theme of engines. Let's see. ANA Holdings, Japan's largest airline, said on Wednesday it will replace all 100 Rolls-Royce engines on its fleet of Boeing 787 Dreamliners, following 3 engine failures this year caused by corrosion and cracking of turbine blades. Again, Rolls-Royce, I believe that's a UK company.
I don't know. I'll have to check, Jeff.
Okay, back to us with that. ANA right now only has 3 engines that need repairs, but they will replace all of the 100 engines for enhanced safety measures, the company said in an email. And each of these engines is like $20 million a piece. That's a big chunk of change when we're talking 100 of them. What's that, $2 billion at retail pricing?
Between you and me, I don't have any inside information about this, Jeff, but I'd be very surprised if they actually put 100 brand new engines into them.
Yeah.
What they would do is modify and change the areas of concern. And as I understand it, the blades that were having the problem were having it just at the point at which the blade joins the rotor hub, which supports the blade. Those of you who have never seen an engine blade, it obviously has the aerodynamic propeller-like surface, and then the bit that holds it into the hub around which it rotates looks a bit like a little Christmas tree, and those slots are designed to engage in the hub and hold it in position. And the coating they put on these blades to prevent corrosion only went down to the point at which it joined the hub. And Rolls-Royce is saying that the users didn't properly describe to them which city pairs, in other words, which destinations they were going to fly these aircraft to. So there was an unexpectedly high level of city pollution that the engines experienced, which began to cause this corrosion. Now, it was fine on the blade itself, but just upon the point at which the blade joined the hub, where this anti-corrosion layer stopped, that's where they began to get a little bit of corrosion. So out of all the engines that are flying in the world, there have only been 5 instances to my knowledge, and only 3, well, ANA's been the largest, having had 3 of those 5. So it's not, in my mind, a particularly big problem. Rolls-Royce have done modifications. They're just going to coat the entire blade, which is not a particularly hard thing to do.
I think I saw some article, I don't know if this is true, it's hard for me to believe, but they said that each one of these fan blades stresses or supports like 90 tons of stress or something like that. Is that even possible? That's just amazing.
I don't know.
The
If
number.
you measure the entire level of stress on a blade, it could be that strong. I don't know. It's rotating at a hell of a speed, a lot of centripetal force, as well as the bending and twisting forces that are on it. So I guess it might be true.
I'm sorry I have to do this, but the chat room is asking me to play the frogs. Probably a little bit too late for that, but there you go. Got to make the chat room happy. By the way, another reminder to those of you listening to the audio only, if you want to have some fun and you're bored at work and you want to join us while we're recording this live, probably the best thing to do, head over to the App Store, either the Google Play Store if you have an Android phone, or the iOS App Store if you have an iPhone, and download the free Airline Pilot Guy app, where we'll send out push notifications when we are going to record the show, or follow us on Twitter at APG Crew, etc. And then if you happen to be in front of a computer at the time, you can join the great folks in the chat room and join the APG party fun. So.
And if you can access YouTube on your phone or mobile device, you can also find the chat room there too. So
Good
don't
point.
necessarily have to be in front of your computer.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, for instance, as an example, I'm using my phone right now since I'm in a mobile studio setup to be able to look at the chat. So there you go.
Excellent. Very good. There you go. A hearty endorsement. And our YouTube channel is Airline Pilot Guy, all one word. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like Rolls-Royce is going to make it right for ANA, and they weren't really expecting the engines to be operated in those conditions. So I guess we can give them a pass on that.
I'm not saying a word.
Okay. Oh, remember how long ago was that? Sometime like 2010, something like that, when the volcano that exploded or erupted.
Aviation.
Oh, excuse me. Bless you. Gesundheit.
I don't know. That was as close as I can come. It's probably still not right, and it took me a very long time to learn how to say that.
Try that again.
Aviation. There's a weird sound at the end that's made by those two L's that I can't get right. But
all I'm looking at is a word that's about 17 letters long, and it's mostly consonants. Anyway, an Icelandic volcano. Well, this is a different one. Let's see. Anyway, Iceland raises the alarm after their largest volcano starts to rumble. Let's see. 2 quakes larger than 4 inches in magnitude, or no, larger than 4 in magnitude. What?
It does say 4 inches. You're
anyway, they have an unusual way to measure their earthquake strength. Early Monday rocked the center of Katla, the country's Met Office said in a statement. Let's see, and that was followed by at least 10 more tremors at the volcano, which rises 1,450 meters into the air on the North Atlantic island's southern coast. Anyway, they were saying, yeah, you should be paying attention to this because we might have a problem again with volcanic ash. So this was on the 30th of August, so just a couple days ago, this article was put out. So we'll have to keep our eye on volcanic activity in that part of the world.
Absolutely. Last time it happened, I was grounded in Boston for 10 days, waiting for the air routes to open up again.
That's not such a bad thing.
No, there were a lot worse places to go.
Yeah.
The only problem was that when we arrived, it was having a little bit of a heat wave, and after about day 3, when it started to sleet as we were trying to make our way out in our shorts and t-shirts to the nearest pub,
nice.
We were going, what's happened to this place? It was freezing, so we were off to the local...
Sounds like Boston.
Yeah, the local cheap Jack clothes store, trying to buy pullovers and fleeces and things to keep warm. But,
well, First Officer Jeff in the chat room said that he got a 7-day Milan vacation last time.
Ah, very nice.
Not bad either.
Not bad, yeah.
Well, Micah, I'll try and be in Boston next time, then we can come and have a beer together.
There you go.
But to be fair, their mapping of these volcanic clouds now is a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. So the chances are that the air routes will be much more likely to stay open.
Really? Even compared to like 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
Well, I think the enormous level of complaint from the UK airlines and the European airlines was just have forced them to find a bit of technology that would allow them to get a reasonable guess.
Gotcha.
So it's been progressing, albeit a lot more slowly. Things don't happen fast when one of these actually erupts, and then when it goes away again, it sort of ticks along. But I think things have been progressing.
Well, hey, we have a piece of drone news.
What
with a
does that
single
have to do with drones?
with a single shotgun blast. That was actually more than one shotgun blast. A 65-year-old woman in a rural northern Virginia town recently shot down a drone flying over her property. The woman, Jennifer Youngman, who has lived in the Plains, Virginia, since 1990. Let's see. That's where she lives. It marks a third such shooting that this news reporting agency, or actually I think it's a magazine, anyway, Ars Technica. Anyway, I'm not going to read that paragraph. That's not necessary for the story. Youngman, this Jennifer Youngman, age 65, told Ars that she had just returned from church one Sunday morning, was cleaning her two shotguns, a 410 and a 20 gauge, on her porch. She had a clear view of the Blue Ridge Mountains and neighbor Robert Duvall's property. Yes, the same Robert Duvall from The Godfather. Youngman had seen two men set up a card table on what she described as a turnaround place on a country road adjacent to her house. I got on minding my business, working on my 410 shotgun, and the next thing I know, I hear a bzzz. She said, this thing is going down through the field, and they're buzzing like you would, scaring the cows. Youngman explained that she grew up hunting and fishing in Virginia, and she was well practiced at skeet and deer shooting. This drone had disappeared over the trees, and I was cleaning away. There must have been a 5 or 6 minute lapse, and I heard the bzzz, she said, noting that she specifically used 7.5 birdshot. I loaded my 20 gauge shotgun and took the safety off, and this thing came flying over the trees. I don't know if they lost command or if they didn't have good command, but the wind had picked up. It came over my airspace, 25 or 30 feet above my trees, and hovered for a second. I blasted it to smithereens. When the men began to walk towards her, she told them squarely, the police are up here in the plains, and they are on their way, and you need to leave. The men complied. They got in their fancy, ostentatious car. I don't know if it was a Range Rover or a Hummer, and left, she said. The Times said many locals believe the drone pilots may have been paparazzi or other celebrity spotters flying near Robert Duvall's property. Let's see. Youngman said that she had recycled the drone, but managed to still be irritated by the debris left behind. I've had 2 punctures in my lawn tractor, she said. Where's the best part? The best quote of this story, and I'll have to somehow clean this actual quote up a little bit. The man is a national treasure, speaking of Robert Duvall. The man is a national treasure, and they should leave him the beep alone, she said. So, I thought that was pretty funny.
She sounds like a class act.
Woman. Yeah, I like that. I like this lady.
I like this lady.
I thought it was fascinating, the law, which doesn't seem to give her any right to the air above her property. But there is a sort of a grey area, apparently, between the levels of 83 feet and 500 feet, all to do with low-flying aircraft complaints. So I'm just going to leave you guys to try and sort that one. American law has me confused at the best of times.
It's got us confused right now, too. I mean... So I guess we don't recognize the concept of aerial trespass. So you can be suspended in the air somehow over someone's property, and they don't have any right to that space. Whoever owns the property below it.
Yeah.
I guess somewhere between 83 and 500 feet.
Yes. Yep.
And of course, you have the minimum safe altitude of flight at 500 feet. However, if you're operating a drone, you're not supposed to operate it above 400 feet. So we have some problems here, I think,
we're gonna have
with
to,
our laws.
We're going to have to sort this out.
Yeah, we need to sort this out. And this lady, Youngman, Jennifer Youngman, is just trying to help us out. She's a catalyst. And,
That's right.
And a lady with a shotgun, and she knows how to shoot it. So watch out if you're in the Plains, Virginia. All right. And... let's see. Finally, I threw this one in the news bag because we had talked about this. It was actually some feedback that was sent in by Fitzjames Muscadin on July 26th of this year. And he, if you'll remember, sent us a bunch of his Flickr photos of an Air Maroc or Royal Maroc 737 taking off at, what was it, Cardiff, I believe. And they, you remember how it kind of started to lift off a little bit and then it kind of settled back down and then lifted off again. We've talked about it on a few episodes. Interestingly, and I really didn't pick up on this right away, there was a YouTube video put out about a month later, and it went viral, and then we talked about it again on our show. And in fact, we had some feedback regarding that as well, which we'll hopefully get to in the feedback section, current feedback. But I thought to myself, isn't the APG community amazing? Because we had one of our APG community members, Fitzjames, he is the first one that said anything about this, and we talked about it
before it became a viral sensation.
video. Yeah, now everybody's talking about it.
I know. I had such a weird sense of deja vu when we went back and talked about it the second time. I'm like, didn't we already talk about this? But I couldn't place it quite right. I'm like, I know we talked about this.
Right.
But
that's the thing. The same thing that happened with me. Stuff. It's like, wait a minute. I thought, didn't we already cover this? And then I realized, wait a minute. Only the APGers knew about this incident until somebody else picked up on it. Probably, maybe they were listening to our show and said, hey, let me see if I can find a video of this. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of highlight the fact that we have an awesome community here, and we're so proud that you're all part of it. And we'll talk a little bit more about the claim by the company that this was caused by wake turbulence, and I think Glenn Towler sent in some feedback regarding that, so we'll listen to his audio feedback a little bit later in the show. But anyway, that's about it for the news folder today. I think it's now time for the very best part of the show, your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Now, Jarrett, you're going to be happy to know that we weren't going to put off your feedback for yet another episode. We've already done that twice. And so I moved this to the 235 folder, and I changed the date on it so it came up number 1 on our list of feedback for this episode. And this is Jarrett from PHX, which is Phoenix International. And he says, hi, Captain Jeff and crew. Just wanted to share this with the community, and a couple of photos included as well. We'll put, of course, the link to this in the show notes. On August 1st, 2016, about 1840 Mountain Daylight Time, a twin-engine turboprop Beech C-99 airplane, November 234 Alpha Victor, sustained substantial damage following a collision with an object in the vicinity of Spanish Fork.
Spanish Fork. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said Spanish Fort because I kind of lived part of my life in Mobile, Alabama, and there's Spanish Fort right there. Yes. So
I used to live not too far from Spanish Fork, Utah.
Oh, Spanish Fork. Yep. Utah. Okay. The airplane was operated as AMF 1843 by Ameriflight LLC, Dallas, Texas, as a visual flight rules scheduled cargo flight under the provisions of 14 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 135. The commercial pilot was not injured. Visual meteorological conditions were reported at the time of the accident. The company flight following procedures were in effect. The flight originated at the Carbon County Regional Airport in Price, Utah, about 1825, destined for Salt Lake City, Utah. In a telephone conversation with the NTSB investigator in charge, the pilot said that he had departed Carbon County, thank you, en route to Salt Lake. He was in a cruise climbing through about 8,500 feet, when he noticed something pass the airplane in his peripheral vision. Then he felt a thud as something struck the airplane. He said that he thought it was a bird strike, and there was no loss of control or abnormal control feel, so he elected to continue the flight to Salt Lake and landed uneventfully. After exiting the airplane, the pilot noticed that about 12 inches of the vertical stabilizer was missing, and there was substantial damage to the rudder. Initial examination of the severed area of the stabilizer showed no evidence of organic material. In other words, they don't believe it was a bird strike. The separated portion of the stabilizer has yet to be located. So that's quite interesting. If you look at the photo, too, it looks like it was just sheared off, the top portion of the vertical stabilizer and rudder. What do you think about this stuff?
I mean, I don't know what he would have collided with to cause something like that. If it wasn't another aircraft or, I don't know, certainly a bird wouldn't do something like that. Well, maybe, but you think? I almost said the word drone and then I hesitated for a minute there, but I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a remote, he was near Spanish Fork, but that's kind of southern Utah County as you're kind of getting out of populated areas south of the Wasatch Front. And certainly coming from, I've actually done that, actually I haven't gone that way, but I've been down to Carbon County Airport as well. I think I landed there once, but it's not a very populated area, so I'm not sure what this represents, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of a mystery. Jennifer thinks it might be, she said that was one heck of a plastic bag strike, eh?
8,500 feet's a little high for a drone.
Yeah.
But UFOs have been known to fly at that high.
Well, but there's the terrain is high there as well, so.
Maybe he was flying inverted
he
and he got a little bit too close to the no.
I mean, depending on where he was, if he was going through one of the canyons there, he may not have been that high, his height off the ground may not have been.
That's true. Yeah, that's elevation at Salt Lake City is what, 4,227?
4,200 something feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and certainly down.
If he did hit a bird, then I guess the debris or the evidence of the bird strike might well be on the detached part.
Mm-hmm.
So,
true.
That just was the weakest area that gave way when the impact of the bird put so much strain on it.
Right.
Could have been one of those big vultures or something, right?
I don't know. You get those in the States, vultures?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Turkey vultures? Yeah.
Okay. He's very lucky he didn't lose more of the fin, quite honestly, because to be fair, fins normally break if they're going to break at the root, not halfway up. So it's an unusual position and very lucky for him because it broke above the hinge, so he still had use of the rudder. And the fact that he didn't notice any change in the handling characteristics is either a bit of a concern about his level of skill, or more importantly, that the airplane's quite well built, I suspect.
Yeah, must be very stabilized in that particular plane.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's interesting. Hopefully, we'll hear any update to that if they figure out if they find the tail fin and what may have impacted it. So, if you out there listening to the show know something more about this, let us know. It's interesting. Swedish Andreas from Sweden, of course, sent us a link to a YouTube video called 7 Myths You Still Believe About Airplanes. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's a couple of the myths they talk about. You can survive an airplane crash? Is the air in airplanes unhealthy? What happens if the plane's punctured? Today, this guy busts these and more of the biggest myths you were ever told about airplanes. So, anyway, it's an interesting series that this guy has put together. Thank you, Swedish Andreas, for that. Chaz, you may know, I believe this is the same Chaz as Dingus and Eugene, but I'm not absolutely positive. So, if it's not you, that Chaz, sorry. He writes, first, he writes, I'm officially blown away. He said, first, Google Camera 360. Camera 360 stills and videos are to be downloaded and or watched from on sites like Vimeo or YouTube using your smartphone or virtual reality headset, which is the most immersive experience. Or, for those without a smartphone or VR headset, you can simply scroll the screen with your mouse to see the panorama. And so he goes on talking about the technology and how you can experience it. And that kind of what came to mind when I read this is something that I don't think anybody sent in, or perhaps they did. I don't recall who or how I kind of stumbled onto it. But there is a Blue Angels 360 degree video. Have you seen this, guys?
Yeah, it's been doing the rounds quite a lot, so I've had a look at it.
It is amazing. It's the number 2 on the Blue Angels, who has a camera mounted, and it's a 360 degree. You can scroll around while the thing's moving on. You can see what's going on behind the jet, above the jet, to either side. And the thing that really blew me away about this, I knew these guys were close, but that diamond formation right after they start, I mean, after they
Oh,
lift off on that initial takeoff, the wing, I mean, it's like you can almost take your arm, your hand, and grab
it
the
looks like it's about this far. They're inches apart. I mean, they
yeah,
literally
and you
are
can just see
inches
it
apart from each other.
bobbling around a little bit,
Hmm.
but I'm thinking, holy cow, that is close.
Yeah.
It's amazing. These guys and gals have amazing skills, mad skills.
Well, those
And
Blue Angels, that is the thing they're really renowned for. Their formations are just so tight, truly
yeah.
overlapping, and that what makes them look so impressive.
And in the past, I've always thought that the Thunderbirds, the Air Force Thunderbirds, were actually tighter, but I don't think so now that I've seen this video. I'm thinking, man, I have new respect for. I mean,
We'll
I've
have to.
always respected the Blue Angels, and I've always thought that they put on a better show, honestly. But wow, watching the skill in this video, I was just blown away.
We'll have to get the competing video from the Thunderbirds to
Yeah,
see.
we do. We need to
So
do that.
if you're out there from the Thunderbirds and listening
Yeah.
to this,
Make your 360
where's your
video.
Google 360 video?
So I'm sure that many of you listening to the show probably have already viewed this, but if not, please, you don't want to pass on this video in the show notes. Make sure you click on it. And I was just looking at it on my computer screen. I didn't have any kind of Google Glass or whatever, the VR, what is it, Google Cardboard or whatever they call it. I wasn't looking at it in a VR device. I was just looking at it on my screen, and I was blown away. And speaking of at least this Chaz, again, I don't know if the first Chaz was the same as this one here. I wasn't able to match up emails or anything. Chaz of Dingus and Eugene fame said, "Hey guys, thought you all might be interested in my attempt to trailblaze." And he has a couple links to his YouTube channel of him flying a Turbine Duke, trying to find an alternate route into PAPG, which is, I believe, somewhere up in Alaska, right?
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, well, here I'm
Starts
going to
with
do a quick
starts with P.
search here. Pardon the.
I don't know. I don't really know that much about Alaska, even though I'm here right now.
Yeah, we expected that you would know something.
You expected that I would have done all my research.
Yeah, this is
Everything here is from
according
Alaska.
to AirNav. This is the Petersburg James A. Johnson Airport in Petersburg, Alaska.
I have no idea where that is.
It's in Alaska.
Good.
Yeah,
That's where you are.
I mean, it's a pretty small state, so I'm sure I'll be able to find it.
I don't think it's too far from where you are because it's part of Anchorage Center. Of course, Anchorage Center is probably huge.
It's probably all of Alaska.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to look. Hold on. It's gonna bug me if I don't know where that is.
It's 113.2 feet elevation. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly. Let me give you the coordinates. It's 564805.3 north. No.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
I was hoping it
Oh
would
no,
be.
it's down south. It's closer to like Juneau.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where Juneau is on this map either, but it's somewhere down that direction.
Anyway, so it's pretty cool. I've watched a few of his videos, flight simming videos, and he's working out instrument approaches, RNAV approaches in his Turbine Duke. And then he says, then taking the GPS breadcrumbs and altitude readings from my Duke's GTN 750 and developing by trial and a great number of errors, an approach into PAPG's runway 5, data that could hopefully be read by my 737 new generation FMC and accurately flown, hands off. So anyway, if you want to kind of see some of the experimentation of the creator of that great comedy act, Dingus and Eugene, will put these links in the show notes so you can see what he's up to. So there you go. Moving on. Hey, Miami Hick, and I think he's in the chat room right now. John Barr sent in some feedback via the Airline Pilot Guy app saying, love in capital letters, Miami Hick. So you have a fan, Miami. Oh, well, yeah, a lot of fans, I'm sure, but
Oh yeah.
John really
Ah.
loves you. So I'm not really sure what to think about that, but
I think I love you. I think I love you.
that was John singing. Okay. That just left everybody dumbfounded.
I know, we were just blown away by his level of admiration for Miami Hick.
It's
But
shocking.
it's the same from all of us. So.
Yeah, we all love you. And by the way, we do have the latest venture from Miami Hick coming up on the show soon. Okay, this is from Lucas the Flying Kiwi. Sorry filling up the electronic mailbag, but I have a full-blown... Oh, wait a minute. Got to get that ready. Stand by, stand by. Technical regulations are in effect at this moment. We're waiting for network control to release us. Okay. Sorry filling up the electronic mailbag, but I have full-blown APG syndrome. APG syndrome. And have caught up with most of the episodes in under a week. I think I'm a little disturbed now. Ooh. You must
Under
be.
a week?
Under a week?
I don't think there's any way you could
You have a lot
possibly.
of free time, don't you? I mean, you pretty much would have to listen to it around the clock.
You know what?
24 hours a day.
I think we need to block Flying Kiwi because obviously he's mentally disturbed.
He sounds like a little bit of a stalker.
Poor chap.
Just kidding, Lucas.
I mean, what's
so-
he going to do when he realizes that once he's caught up, where he's only going to get one once a week?
I know.
Oh, it's a huge letdown to people. I mean, it's happened to people in the past too. That's a different part of the APG syndrome, for people who are playing the catch-up game. And then all of a sudden you really have to, your expectations for the show will be lowered because you'll have to wait.
Is that like the different stages of APG syndrome?
It is a little bit, yeah. We're still trying to classify it completely, but
By the way, if you want to learn more about the APG syndrome, go to airlinepilotguy.com/APG syndrome, all one word. For real. I actually have a page there.
I know. I saw you did that. But you know what? That reminds me. I'll get on. My team that we're working on the classification scheme for APG syndrome. We'll have that out and published shortly. So
good.
You can add that.
Look forward to that. Because I can't get enough of APG, I was just reading everyone's bio, and I'm very interested in your military service as well, Captain Nick. Oh, no, I guess he's talking to me, as well as Captain Nick's. I know a chap who a while ago was on exchange from... No, he's talking to Captain Nick. I just can't read. Sorry. I know of a chap who a while ago was on exchange from the Royal New Zealand Air Force to the Royal Air Force when they were flying Phantoms, by the name of Chris Lee. Not sure what his rank was or what squadron base was. Would Captain Nick want to identify his squadron? Do you know this guy, Captain Nick?
I don't, unfortunately. I'm trying to remember which squadron had the Kiwis on them. We had U.S. Marines on my squadron, so I can't. I'm sorry. And if the name doesn't ring a bell either, but because they would change over every couple of years, so we had quite a few go through. So I'm sorry I can't help.
That's okay. Interestingly, probably only to Captain Jeff, I may be one of the few Kiwis to have flown in, ever so briefly, the A-37, the Dragonfly. Makes an appearance at the Omaka Air Show every now and then. It has started operating out of the local base, Royal New Zealand Air Force Woodburn, because this is a sealed runway, as it started a grass fire operating out of the grass runways at Omaka. I remember the cockpit being just dials. As a private pilot license holder, I know that what most things do or tell me in a cockpit, but I was totally lost in the A-37. I would imagine with your experience in the T version, the cockpit would be very familiar. As for the noise, the whistle of the Dragonfly Tweety Bird was not too bad. Okay, this is where I need to point out a major difference in the T-37, the trainer version, and the A-37, the assault or attack version of that airplane. The engines in the T-37 are Teledyne CAE J69s, the centrifugal compressors, which make a very, very awful whistle noise, very loud noise. The A-37 has the General Electric J85 engines, which are the same engines that are in some of the first Learjets and also the T-38. The T-38 has a reheat version of that engine, or an afterburning version of that engine, but the A-37 doesn't have the reheat part of it available to it, just the straight core General Electric J85. Oh, by the way, the Learjet doesn't have the afterburners either. But I bet that would be fun.
Shame.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be great.
So that's the reason. The GE J85 engines they're loud, but they're not whistly loud like the J69 on the Tweet. So anyway, just thought I'd let you know there. And by the way, the performance of the A37 is far superior to the T37. The thrust from those engines are just hugely greater than the centrifugal compressor engines on the T37. Anyway, moving on to his feedback. I also just heard Brett Nichols on your New Zealand section of the feedback. He's a bit of a legend down here. By the way, Brett sent some feedback a couple episodes ago. Anyway, he's a bit of a legend down here, running a charter business, flying 2 ex-Royal New Zealand Air Force Strike Masters. No, is it Strike Master you put in? Was that maybe that's an error or a typo?
Oh, that's a typo. It's a Strike Master.
Strike Master. Or Bunties, as Captain Nick
Blunty. There's an L in there.
Oh, that one is not misspelled, though.
That's just my eyesight.
That's just misread.
Yes. I need to increase the text size, I think. Great to hear he's a fellow APGer. I've also flown in a Blunty back when I was an Air Force cadet. They were our primary jet trainer back then, a bit like the RAF's Jet Provost. One of the things I most remember is the ejection seat. It was a canopy cutter type seat where a loop of fast detachable, or det cord, is that what that stands for? Det cord?
Detonation cord.
Detonation cord.
Yeah.
Would fracture the canopy and you'd go through it. During the briefing, he informed me if we needed to eject, I'd need to pull my own handle as the system wasn't linked. He told me he would say, eject, eject, eject 3 times. And don't wait for the 4th eject, as you'll be talking to yourself. Okay, so very good.
It's usually a good clue, actually. When the bloke beside you, who's flying it, ejects, best you follow him.
You should probably also eject.
Yeah, when you see like a rocket engine go by, it's probably time to get out. As for IPAs, go ahead, Captain Nick.
I was just going to say it's quite interesting. During flying training, when we flew those aircraft, our instructors would have the same brief. So if they assessed a situation as dangerous, they'd say eject, eject, eject. And it became sort of ingrained to us because it was a regular part of our emergency briefs. When we got to the Phantom, we had to be trained out of that because if the pilot, this was in the early days when we didn't have command ejection system. That's the system whereby if one of you ejects, the other one will automatically come out as well. If the pilot said eject, 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 and then pulled his handle, what happened was the navigator would hear the command, pull his handle, and as he started to leave the aircraft, the pilot would, if he mistimed it, would pull his handle, and his canopy would kill the navigator as he left the aircraft because the pilot's canopy would jettison and hit him smack in the face. So we briefed that we wouldn't say anything. We said if we get to an ejection situation, I will just pull the handle and you follow me.
Well, yeah, just a navigator.
Yes.
Tricky. You're probably not in a good situation to begin with, but that's just wow. It's a lot to have on your mind.
Sad situation. I think we use the phraseology bailout, 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 I think. Maybe it's just been such a long time since I've been in a military aircraft with an ejection seat. I don't remember exactly.
That's a lot of syllables to have to say.
Bailout, well, eject, bailout, that's the same number. If I'm counting correctly. Anyway.
I don't know.
Maybe somebody can write in and say,
twister.
Captain Jeff is absolutely right or absurdly wrong. I'm voting for the latter. As for IPAs being for psychopaths, well, there may be something in that. I like IPAs. Okay, Lucas. I also like strong black coffee, which research says may also point to psychopathic tendencies. Research also suggests that people who drink decaf mochas with marshmallows are more likely to be their victims.
Brilliant.
That definitely was a good one, and I would play this rim shot like this. Because that deserves it. All right. Thank you, Flying Kiwi, for that piece of feedback. Very, very entertaining. And speaking of entertaining, do you think it's time now for our latest adventure of Miami Hick?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, here we go.
This is Miami Hick. Finally got me a night off. I needed a break from hauling around all those cattle and livestock and all them smelly stuff. I decided to go watch a movie on my night off, and I couldn't believe the preview I saw. They always play the previews before the movies, and I was shocked at the preview that I saw. I can't believe Captain Jeff or anybody else hadn't said anything about this movie coming out. Well, I found the movie trailer on YouTube, and I recorded it so you all could hear it. So I hope you enjoy this new movie coming out, and let me know what you think. Till I see you again, Miami Hick, over and out.
In a world full of crappy pilots, 3 men and 1 woman strive to be the best. Coming this summer, Airline Pilot Guy, the movie, starring Al Pacino as Captain Jeff.
If you want to tell me, get in the plane. The plane doesn't fly me, I fly the plane. Okay, let's go.
Seth Rogen as Captain Rick.
Dude, I'm like so high right now. I'm in 30,000 feet.
Michael Caine as Captain Nick.
So I told my co-pilot, don't tell me how to fly this bloody plane. I've been flying since your mother was in diapers.
And Jennifer Garner as Dr. Steph.
I'm not landing this plane. I'm jumping out of it.
Strap into your seats. The seatbelt light is on.
Okay, well, you've blown our cover. Now you know. We've been working on this movie for quite some time, and it's going to be released soon. APG, yes. The movie.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Neither can I.
I haven't been so excited about a movie in a long time. So.
Wasn't that great? Major applause for Miami Hick. Such a creative man. I think the best part was was Captain Rick. Dude,
so high. Like 30,000 feet.
They nailed him.
Yeah, I think the casting was spot on.
Yeah, perfect.
What was it that you said, Captain Nick? Don't tell me how to fly this airplane.
I think the original quote was, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off." That's from the Italian Job. That fantastic movie.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Miami Hick, for your comic genius. That was
super.
Awesome.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although that one will take a lot of eating.
Yep. Mike Kuiper says they'll be showing it on all Acme flights. Yes.
Ooh, yeah, that's right.
Make sure you book your Acme flight, and you'll be able to watch APG.
Perhaps we should get Miami Hick to do our Acme boarding video or the safety
video.
Yeah,
he's always looking for new ideas. So.
Yes.
Anyway. Okay. Now that we've recovered from that, I think it's time to get back to more serious subjects. And let's see here. I guess next is Kai. Kai Wessner. I'm currently in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets, and I eventually want to have a part somewhere in the aircraft industry. whether that be aircraft maintenance or a pilot. The Air Cadet program allows me to acquire a glider's license and a pilot's license through training. If I succeed various tests and interviews, they will not only award me with licenses, but money for fuel to fly as well. I'm currently studying From the Ground Up textbook. Awesome podcast, Kai. Well, welcome, Kai, to the APG community, and we're glad you're here, and please let us know how your journey proceeds in the Royal Canadian Air Cadet. Why is everything royal except for the United States?
Because we told the Brits to get lost. Remember that?
Remember that king that used to be in charge of you?
We didn't really like King George. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe you're right.
Take your taxes and go back to that island you call home.
You're exactly right.
I think that's how it went down.
Ah, okay. That was almost word for word, that quote.
Yes. Historically accurate.
Yes. Okay. Let's see.
Oh, if I could just say, I'm so impressed with the Air Cadet organizations around the world, and the Canadians do a great job. So I just wanted to congratulate Kai and wish him well, and I hope he enjoys it as much as I did when I was a young Air Cadet doing exactly what he's doing.
Oh no, you were an Air Cadet?
Of course.
I was a Space Cadet.
Says spaced a lot, out cadet, probably.
Exactly. Well, that's what the term we use here in our country. Somebody's kind of like, "Ooh, it's a space cadet."
Well, we used to get called the same, I must admit.
Yes. Good luck, Kai, and again, really, honestly, keep us apprised as to how that all works out.
Especially, I'd love to hear how you get on.
Yep. Anil writes. The Captain Jeff just discovered your podcast. I'm loving it. Lots of catching up to do, starting from podcast number 1. Wow. He obviously has the syndrome. Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of APG syndrome. Okay.
That's better than the original.
Oh, thank you.
I think you need to make a new recording.
Well, what happened again? I used my finger, on the touch screen, and it did its thing where it started playing, and then immediately started cutting out. So I thought I better take over by singing.
Improvise.
Anyway, I've had a couple of questions over the years and wondered if you might be able to address any of them in future podcasts. Now, we're going to make a special case here, Anil. We don't normally want multiple questions because we want everybody to have a chance of asking them. So if you're listening to this and you want to send us some feedback in the future, if you could just limit your feedback to 1 or 2 questions, that'd be great. And but Anil, I guess he's been saving up for quite some time, so we're going to give you a break here. Let's see. Number 1, in the course of international travel and entry into multiple countries, are pilots required to get visas for every country they're traveling to? I have no idea. Captain Nick?
Well, some countries demand it. Other countries, we have a mutual agreement where we can work in and out without requiring a visa. The only visas that I actually require for all the countries I go to is the United States, because they're hard asses about that sort of thing.
Okay. It's actually just for you.
Yeah.
We let all the other pilots.
Useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute.
And I'm sure if one of the candidates I'm thinking of, in particular, becomes the president, then things will get even harder. Anyway, so that's it. It depends entirely on the country you're coming from and going to, and what agreements you have with them. Yeah, just the one visa for me.
I mean, there's a lot of different types of visas too. So some countries will require, like Nick was saying, a work visa. It's not the same, travel visa or tourist visa that you would need if you were just going for non-work related purposes.
Yeah. We need both, Steph, because sometimes you may be working in, and sometimes you may be deadheading and passengering. So we actually need to have, if we're going to need visas, we need them all times. But a lot of countries, I don't even need to show a passport. I just get it on my ID. So it depends.
What was the term you just used for U.S. Customs?
I can't remember now, Jeff. It was so long ago.
Come on, try to remember.
Hard asses?
That's what she said.
Okay. Since you're looking at the same piece of feedback that I am, why don't you take number 2, Captain Nick?
Okay, during takeoff, I've noticed the cabin lights are temporarily dimmed. Is this for power conservation of the engines? Yeah, if you turn the lights on, we can't get airborne. And if someone turns their reading light on halfway through the takeoff, chances are we'll end up in a smoldering heap at the end of the runway.
That's actually what happened to the Emirates flight in Dubai.
We are, of course, joking, Anil. No, there's no power consumption problem. Dark adaptation is really what it's all about. So in the event of us having to stop the runway for a serious problem, say an engine fire, the cabin crew need to be able to see out of the aircraft to make sure it's safe before they open their individual doors, and having the cabin windows open gives both the passengers and the cabin crew a good appreciation of the situation outside the aircraft. And of course, because the cabin lights are dimmed, then their eyes will be adapted for the conditions outside. So that's the answer to that one.
Okay, Steph, you want to do number 3?
Sure. So number 3, if a pilot has determined that a flight has to be aborted shortly after takeoff and has to land, quote, heavy, forcing fuel to be dumped, will this be done even if flying over populated areas? Does fuel jettison typically evaporate before it would hit the ground? I recognize this would be dependent on many factors, including airspeed, elevation, and the volume of fuel being dumped. And I'm going to let you guys tackle the answers to that question.
So, yes, you would, if the safety of the flight depended upon, lighting up the airplane as quickly as you can, then it would be kind of one of those last ditch efforts to, keep the jet flying. And this can be done immediately after takeoff, but in general, this is something that is done after the airplane is well away from the ground and well above populated areas, and checklists completed, etc. Because the concern at that point is not getting the airplane, keeping the airplane in the air or flying. It's more to do with the danger and risks associated with landing the airplane at a very heavy weight. So I do remember in some of the airplanes I've flown in the past that had fuel jettisoning capabilities, that we were presented with scenarios where you would have to almost immediately start dumping fuel to survive the takeoff with engine failures and such. But that's not a typical thing anymore. The way airplanes are designed, they can handle engine failures very well. Right after takeoff with just one engine operating, or 3 engines operating in the case of the Airbus 340 that Captain Nick flies. But again, it's not so much to do with the risk associated, close to the ground immediately after takeoff, but more to do with the risk associated with landing at a very heavy weight. And as far as jettisoning fuel above populated areas, yes, it is my understanding that fuel jettison typically does evaporate before it hits the ground, almost immediately, I think. It evaporates. And anything you want to add to that, Captain Nick?
Yeah, we have a company minimum height. In fact, an Airbus also recommend at least 5,000 feet above ground level to ensure that evaporation takes place. And it depends which airfield you're going to when you declare the fact you need to dump. If you're in a dire emergency, you just throw that out the window. As Jeff says, you just dump whenever, because it's obviously more important to get the weight down immediately than try and climb up to a suitable altitude. Some countries or some airfields have got a specific dumping area, which might be just over the ocean if the airfield's near the coast, or it might be in a sort of deep populated area. Other airports don't seem to care. They let you dump just about anywhere. But so you usually ask air traffic if they have somewhere special you want to dump. You get their clearance, and then away you go.
Yeah. This is a good one. Number 4, do pilots ever exhibit territorialism when dealing with pilots flying from competing airlines in information exchange surrounding things like weather conditions, etc. My guess would be that information exchange would be free-flowing and professionalism would trump corporate interests. And
Yeah,
I'd say,
Delta pilots love to give out ride reports, for example. They just think that that's so important that everyone knows that it's light chop
I
wherever
guess
they
that
are.
they like the exchange of information, free-flowing, and professionalism.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's really just in everyone's best interest, I think, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure that
Theirs and
there are,
yours.
there are exceptions. I'm sure that people would purposely not mention something, to kind of thwart the comfort of the flight for someone else. But I think that would be very rare. I think most of us, we fly for, we have different logos on our jets and our uniforms are a little bit different. But hey, deep down inside, we're all aviators, and we all kind of share in the brotherhood and sisterhood of aviation. And it's not like we're competing with each other. We're just happen to work for different companies. That's my feeling about it.
Absolutely. It's a very professional thing to do to advise all airmen within range that you've encountered a certain, say, meteorological problem. But I have noticed that there are some nations where perhaps they will speak to or make a broadcast in their native language about something. You can tell what they're talking about because sometimes their native language doesn't include the term turbulence or chop, and you have to use that English word. So and they give the entire rest of the broadcast, like their position, height, and how bad it is, in their own language. And you're going, well, that guy's obviously in some turbulence, but he's not letting anyone.
Yeah. You want to share it with me, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to everyone out there is trying to operate their aircraft safely, whether they're flying for a company, flying for themselves, professional pilots, general aviation pilots, and everyone wants access to all of that information equally. So I think most people out there are going to be professional and
Absolutely.
responsible in the end.
Absolutely. The only thing we do find is that in some countries, they will let their national carriers get in first and off first, whereas other countries are very, very disciplined about going in any order or the correct order, regardless of where which country your airline belongs to.
Exactly. Nick, number 5.
How do pilots maintain visual attentiveness when scanning the skies over blank areas like flying over the ocean for long periods of time? My guess would be that if staring at a blank, unchanging scenes for hours at a time, should a blip in the visual field present itself, it would be easily completely overlooked. And he gives examples here of search aircraft looking for things. And you're quite right. In the military, when we were flying fighters, it was so important to keep a good visual lookout. Now, the interesting thing about your eye, when you stare into an empty field and using the correct technology, the correct description there, is that your eye will focus back towards you until it sees something to focus on. So you might glance out thinking you're looking out to the horizon, and the next thing you'll be looking at scratches on the canopy because your eyes will have focused back to within a few inches, say 2 feet of your face. So the technique which we used was always to glance out at something that's close to the focus point of infinity, which is normally about sort of 20 or 30 feet away. Even if it's just your wingtip, you usually try and find a cloud or something that you can focus to, and then you would scan for a short while, and then you would glance back at something that you could specifically focus on to make sure that your eyes were focused out and not coming back towards some point close to you, whereupon you would obviously miss a dot. And you had to remember that the sharp focus area of your eye is the equivalent of the size of an apple held at arm's length. So if you clench your fist and hold it out at arm's length, that is about the area you can cover in sharp focus. All the rest is basically peripheral, and so you have to move that point around the sky. Your peripheral is very good at picking up moving objects. So if you stare in one point and then just concentrate on your peripheral, you can see something is moving relative to you. But an aircraft that isn't going or is coming vaguely in your direction at some distance doesn't have a lot of lateral or doesn't have a lot of relative movement to you.
Yeah.
So you won't see it in your peripheral. So it's important to scan the skies in a very logical way to try and make sure you cover the entire sky before you start again. At times refocusing your eyes to get them out there. So that's the short answer to that one.
That's the short answer?
Where's the frogs again? That was a...
I try not to go into everything that I know about that. But.
You know, I when traffic is called out to us, that's, and you know, if you have something out there like clouds that are off in the distance, that really does help your that technique of trying to focus on something and then kind of scanning around, as opposed to just looking out the window and not, because your eyes are probably focused on something 4 feet away, you know, so you can't see anything.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, as you get older, of course, you see a lot more imperfections in your eye, the things that float around in the fluid in your eyes, which are funny enough, I think they're called floaters, aren't
floaters.
they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they are.
Which kind of reminds me of something else, but by the way. And you'll often find yourself seeing those because they're just there in the fluid in your eye. And as the older
your eye can focus on it pretty easily too if you let it.
So you have to learn to try and ignore those.
Yeah. Well, that
I've
was
got
fantastic.
one that's the shape of a 747 with an engine missing, and I keep seeing that, which is a bit off-putting.
I was desperately looking for the flushing sound. Couldn't find it. Oh well. Because did somebody say floaters? Okay. Let's see.
6?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. With respect to the recent crash in Dubai, what do other pilots do as they are either on approach or getting ready for takeoff and are watching the event unfold? Do they just sail on by as they are landing or return to the terminal of taxiing out? If a crash has occurred on one runway several hours earlier and there is no immediate danger of fire, etc., do planes keep landing on adjacent runways and subject the passengers to view the horror of bodies and wreckage, or divert even if the adjacent runways are still functional? So a lot of stuff going on in there. So first of all, pilots are going to do what air traffic control needs them to do in those situations too. If something happens, if there's an incident on a runway that happens right in front of you, you're not going to continue and land there. You're going to be going around. Hopefully we're getting some instruction from air traffic control on that as well when they're able to. And then it just depends on what the situation is. If there is an incident, there's a crash, and there's debris, runways, taxiways, etc., are going to have to be clear of debris to be able to even land on them in the first place. But it might not be advisable if there's a lot of other activity taking place. Maybe you guys have some more information on all of that.
I would add that a lot of times they'll close an airport even if they have multiple runways, and the reason for that is that when the field fire rescue vehicles are tending to an accident, you've basically reduced the capability.
Resources.
Yeah, the resources for them if something else happens. Like what are the chances of something else happening? Well, probably not very high, but just in case, they have to, basically downgrade the airport's capabilities immediately. So that's a big reason why flights are diverted, and it takes some time before an airport is operational again.
Right. And if you haven't gone anywhere, again, it depends on where you are, what the situation is, whether you can get around it, or just go back to the gate, which is probably what's going to happen if the airport's closed anyway.
Right. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers. Anything to add, Captain Nick, on that one?
No, only the fact that if you've given away your ability to go to a diversion, otherwise you've committed yourself to an airport with multiple runways, then you'd immediately declare an emergency, and they will let you land on any runway that's not affected. And even if they have a runway that might have some bits of debris on it, they're going to have to let you land anyway if you can't go anywhere else. So your emergency would override any air traffic wishes.
Right.
Sometimes in some countries that might be a bit hard to get across to them. That's the only problem. In the States it would be easy because everyone speaks the same language, but other countries, you're going to have to be pretty forceful to make sure you get your point across.
You know that Asiana 777 that crashed at San Francisco International, there was a United 747 on a parallel taxiway taxiing out to the runway, and they were basically trapped out there because, and they were like right there front row seat for the entire accident. In fact, many people were traumatized by viewing the airplane crashing and all the stuff that occurred after the crash because they were sitting on the left side of the airplane and could clearly see it all developing right in front of them. And
but in that case, I mean, there's not much.
No, couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah.
And I think they got it. They got everybody back to the terminal as soon as it was safe to taxi the airplane on a route to get them back.
Sure.
Anyway, so Anil, thank you for your questions. He said, I don't expect you to answer any or all the questions. Oh, you don't?
Too late.
Damn. You should have put it at the beginning.
Yeah. Hey, public service announcement. If you're going to say that about your feedback, put that at the beginning of we'll probably read it all and answer it all anyway, but,
So thanks. Just kidding around with Anil. Thank you for your questions, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. And thanks for being a member of the community. We do appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, it's the Mad Dog section of the feedback. Got a bunch of it, and I tried to put it all together. Now, I think the reason for, well, this first one has nothing to do with it. There was some recent articles in the news penned by folks regarding the 20-something or approximately 20 Mad Dogs that American Airlines just recently retired all at once. And but this actually came in before those articles came out. It's a question from Kevsky, our Norwegian. Kevin is his name, from Norway, I believe, but he likes to call himself Kevsky. I have a short question for Jeff. I found an MD-8890 operations manual, and on the takeoff procedure page it says, quote, "Caution, MD-90, do not allow engines to stabilize between 60% and 66% N1 during ground operation. Damage to fan blades can occur." And he writes, why is this? Is it because some vibration issue or something? And why is it only during ground operations? Blue skies and tailwinds. Well, I did look up myself this operations manual and believe it appears that it came from Acme Airlines some time ago. But I scoured my current manuals, and there is nothing in there that says anything like this at all. And in fact, when you wrote this to me, I thought, what? I don't remember ever hearing anything about don't allow the engines to stabilize between 60 and 66% N1. And I even asked my simulator instructor when I was in training, and he said, I don't know. I've never heard that. So not sure exactly why that's in that manual that you found online. But I would guess that it does probably have something to do with vibration issues, but I don't know. I would give you more information if I had it, but I just don't really know what that's all about. Let's see. Liz and who else? Several others of you. I'm sorry if I don't call out your name regarding this, but many of you read some of these articles written regarding the American Airlines retirement of a good chunk of their Mad Dogs. And Liz said, hey, read this, and what do you think about it? And one guy from Forbes, the headline of his article, "Few travelers will shed a tear over its demise, but the McDonnell Douglas MD-80 changed our world." And he starts off by saying, nobody wanted it. And when they got it, They didn't love it much. They only tolerated it. Sounds like the story of my life. So he goes on to talk about the fact that how McDonnell Douglas got some of the airlines, most notably American Airlines, to actually buy the airplane, basically by almost giving it to them and saying, look, if you don't like it after a certain amount of time, then just give them back to us, basically. And but they found that the airplane, at least at the time, was relatively fuel efficient, and it really helped them establish the hub and spoke system, not the hug and spoke system. That's
different.
Something entirely different. And turned out to be a workhorse of an airplane, an airliner. And but he goes on in here in some places to say that he's complaining about how noisy the airplane is. But in my experience, even the Mad Dogs with the JT-8D Pratt & Whitneys, unless you're sitting really close to the back of the airplane, it's a pretty quiet airplane, especially in the middle portion of the airplane, just maybe a third of the way back to about halfway back. It's very quiet. So one of the most quietest airplanes I've ever ridden as a passenger in myself, but maybe it's because I've lost all my hearing now and it's just everything seems quiet. I don't know. But
no, up front it is quiet.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why. I don't really agree with all the things that this guy says about it, but he's looking at it from mostly a financial viewpoint and not an aviation geek point of view. But I will tell you, though, that I never intended to fly the Mad Dog at Acme Airlines. I never flew it as a co-pilot. I intended to avoid it as a captain. But when I was displaced from the 727 captain position, the only airplane that I could fly captain on in Atlanta was the Mad Dog. So I displaced myself to that airplane and thinking I'm going to fly this airplane for as little as I have
like
to.
Like a couple of years or something?
Yeah, a couple of years, and then jump to the 7.3 or something else. And
so how many years has it been?
Well, yeah, that's the irony. The airplane I was never, ever going to fly, I've flown on now longer than any airplane ever in my life. I've been on this thing for more than 14 years. And if you look at my hours on the airplane, by far the most hours have been logged on this particular jet fleet. And at first, I have to admit, it was it was an airliner, but it just didn't feel like. I mean, it's really hard to compete against the 727 and the Lockheed L-1011. Those are two really classic, amazingly engineered and built airplanes. And so, I was kind of holding this airplane up to a pretty high benchmark. And over time, I started, appreciating the idiosyncrasies of the jet, and it was a challenge for me to fly the airplane as smoothly as possible based on all the idiosyncrasies of the airliner. And I mean, I hate to say that I love the airplane right now, but it's not really. I don't know how much of it has to do with the fact that I've flown it for so many years now that I don't remember what it's like to fly anything else.
You've just forgotten.
Yeah,
those are all distant memories in the past.
That might actually be part of it. I don't know. Maybe when I finally, move on to something else,
you're not going to like it.
Wow, this is so much better. No, I'm thinking the opposite.
Oh.
I'm going.
I know I was being silly.
Flying that piece of junk for so long. No. So I don't know. Maybe my perspective has been blurred a bit for being on it for so long. I don't know. But it's not a bad airplane. Yes, we at Acme are also supposedly retiring our fleet. Our airplanes are newer than American Airlines versions of the jet, but our company has announced that they're hoping to be rid of all the Mad Dogs, at least the 80 series, in the next 4 or 5 years. And we are keeping the MD-90 fleet. We have about 60 of those now. Right now, our 88s number over 100, like 120 something. of those. So we have a pretty big fleet, not as big as Americans, but so if I decide that I don't want to fly any other airplane for the rest of my career, which is a little more than 7 years, I could probably feasibly fly the Mad Dog, the 90 series, until I retire. But I doubt that I'll do that. But it's possible. But
so would you say you have been bitten by the Mad Dog bug, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd say that I might have been bitten by the Mad Dog. Funny you should mention that.
That sounds like an odd sentence.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sing you a song that I wrote long ago and far away. The name of it is Mad Dogs and Englishmen. In tropical climes, at certain times of day, when all the citizens retired, tear their clothes off and perspire. It's one of those rules that the greatest fools obey because the sun is far too sultry and one must avoid the botrival rain. Tap like a pap like a pap like a boo. That's natives if you're interested. The natives grieve when the white men leave their huts because they're obviously, definitely nuts. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The Japanese don't care. The Chinese wouldn't dare to. Hindus and Argentines sleep firmly from 12 to 1, but Englishmen detest a siesta. In the Philippines, they have lovely screens to protect you from the glare. In the Malay states, there are hats like plates, which the Britishers won't wear. At 12 noon, the natives swoon and no further work is done. But
Mad Dogs and Englishmen
go out to the midday sun.
So we'll put a link to that. That's Noel Coward.
Absolutely.
Mad Dogs and Englishmen. That was courtesy of our main man, Micah. Thank you for sending that. And I know it's really difficult to hear exactly what he's saying there because he's saying it so darn quickly. But take a look at the at the YouTube video to see it in its full glory. And Nico says, imagine listening to this at double speed.
There's someone out there doing that right now, and then they're going, whoa, 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 whoa. What is that? Back up.
Absolutely. No, I loved him in the movie where he directed and acted in Which We Serve, which was one of the great wartime movies that the UK produced. And he was also a screenwriter for Brief Encounter, which you probably will have heard of. So he had a great career both as an actor, a playwright, a singer, a songwriter, a writer, I should say, and as wrote, and appeared in many films. So very good man, very clever man.
Yes, very talented. All right. So I know you weren't referring exactly to that little piece when you said, "Were you bitten by the Mad Dog?" But
the Mad Dog bug.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about Oshkosh. Richard writes, "It was great to finally meet you all at Farnborough and be a part of that amazing show. What an inspired idea to get the other podcasts along as well, not to mention the technical skills of Neville and the plain-talking guys." Of course, that would be Matt and Carlos. "I wish I could have stayed longer afterwards rather than rushing off to catch the last train." Yeah, we too, Richard. It would have been nice to hang out a little bit longer. For many years, I've also been a listener of the Uncontrolled Airspace podcast, also known as UCAP, UCAP. That's at uncontrolledairspace.com, whose presenters, Jack Hodgson, Dave, and Jeb, recently did a great series of half-hour daily specials from Oshkosh, brilliantly giving the flavor and atmosphere of each day for those of us not lucky enough to be there in person. In a recent APG, there was talk of a possible meetup at Oshkosh next year. So, what I was wondering is, how about getting together with the UCAP guys to do a joint show / super APG episode? Keep up the good work. APG just keeps getting better and better. Thank you, Richard, for the nice, kind words regarding our show. And I listen to Uncontrolled Airspace as well, and I believe at least some of them listen to our show as well. And I'm not sure. I'm not going to commit to anything, and I'm sure that we're going to have to talk to those folks anyway and see if they're willing to do something together. But yeah, there are rumors that we might be attending Oshkosh next year, and perhaps we can do something similar to what we did in Farnborough. Maybe getting a bunch of the aviation podcasters together while we're there. I don't know. If we do, of course, we're going to make sure that we have Matt and Carlos and Nev to
You guys have to
handle
come.
the technical details, right?
Yes, if we're going, they have to be there too.
Yes. So if they can't make it, then we're not going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we'll have to see. But thanks for the suggestion. And by the way, if you haven't been listening to Uncontrolled Airspace, you owe it to listen to it. And they focus mainly on general aviation. But it's a good show. Great show, actually. So thanks for mentioning it. Now, Carl writes, I wanted to briefly share my experience flying general aviation into Oshkosh this year. It was my 6th year doing so. I've actually flown into and landed at Oshkosh 3 of the 6 times. Weather and or mechanical issues have caused diverts on other occasions. This year was a crazy year given the IFR weather on the Saturday and Sunday morning before the show. This resulted in a large volume of flights trying to get in on Sunday afternoon. This year I had flown my Gobosh. Is that the way you pronounce that stuff? Gogosh?
Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Never heard of that.
No.
Anyway,
I'm not familiar with it either.
Carl flies a Gobosh or Gobosh?
I think Gobosh.
Gobosh 700 aircraft from Colorado Springs to Mitchell, South Dakota to participate in the AirVenture Cup cross-country air race prior to the final flight into Oshkosh. This nearly 80 aircraft 400-mile cross-country air race is an annual event where amateurs like myself get to mix it up with real air race pilots flying at over 400 miles an hour. Let's just say my speed at 130 miles per hour wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. After crossing the finish line, we recover into Wausau Airport, where the local Experimental Aircraft Association members cook us lunch. After lunch, we depart in loose formation to the VFR approach according to the NOTAM into Oshkosh. As I said previously, this year it was just crazy with all the traffic in on Sunday afternoon. When I got the final Rock Your Wings and runway assignment, I got sent to 36 left. Not my favorite runway assignment, but I was going to make it work. As I turned base to final, I saw a plane in front of me on final. This is normal as they regularly land multiple planes on a single runway at once. As the aircraft got to real short final, I watched in disbelief as he quickly rolled into a stall spin right into the ground. He hit hard nose first into the ground. I was quite sure I'd witnessed a fatal stall spin. I was in total disbelief. I made a call to Tower, letting them know there had been a crash just in case they didn't see it. They immediately closed the airport. I was coming up on short final. Suddenly, I had to divert. There were a ton of planes all being sent elsewhere, so I just probably saw someone crash and die and had to compete with a ton of airplanes, all VFR with transponders turned off due to the NOTAM, without ATC, all heading for the divert airports. I made the decision to fly past Fond du Lac Airport and get my wits back about me and read the NOTAM for the Fond du Lac airport procedures. It is an overflow airport for Oshkosh. As it turned out, it wasn't tough getting into Fond du Lac, but there were a ton of planes all trying to land there. I got it on the ground, tied down, and got a message as I got into the shuttle back to Oshkosh that the pilot had survived the crash. I was amazed. Some lessons learned from this experience. Always be ready for anything to happen. Know the NOTAM procedures for the divert. The stories about your mind taking at least 5 seconds to realize what has happened is really true. Always fly the airplane. Always, no matter what has happened. This is actually the second stall spin I've witnessed right in front of me. The other one when I was on the ground at Sebring, when it happened only a few yards in front of me. In that case, it was a double fatal. Always watch airspeed and be aware of what you're doing with respect to G-loading in low-speed situations. Anyway, hope this story is interesting and useful for others who may think about flying into Oshkosh in the future, or other fly-ins. Also, I think the APG guys should fly into Osh next year in general aviation planes to get the full experience. Thanks. And again, that's Carl, Race 18, and he has a picture of his beautiful airplane here. Wow,
Yeah,
it's
very
gorgeous.
cool airplane.
Very sexy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I
Did
bet
you
that's
make
fun to
that,
fly.
Carl? It looks like a home built to me. I don't know. It's a very pretty. We'll put that picture in the show notes so you all can gawk at it as well. Yeah, speaking of that stall spin accident, I think it's the latest episode of the Uncontrolled Airspace podcast. Jeb, I believe, was in his airplane waiting for takeoff on Sunday, about midday, and the airport was closed for just under an hour, I believe, because somebody on short final did what he just described. I'm wondering if it's the same the same incident because they were both on Sunday.
Yeah, probably so.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad that in this case they survived the crash.
Yeah, well, he brings up a lot of good points there too. It's so important to, if you're going to be doing something like that, especially at Oshkosh, because it's so busy, it's so detailed. The NOTAM is, I forget how many pages long of stuff to read. So that alone is enough, but you never expect it. You should always be expecting, but it never really is in the front of our mind that, oh, hey, something's going to happen right in front of me and I'm going to have a plan B, divert, go somewhere else. But you really do need to know that information, and that's really good points that he brings up for everyone else out there to know going forward.
Yep. I mean, we always think about possible diverts when the weather's low. I mean, things that are obvious to us, that
right.
Okay, this may or may not work out, but on a beautiful day, the weather's nice, and then an airplane crashes on the runway, and that throws a huge wrench into your plans when that happens. So.
Yep.
Anyway, good points, Steph, and good points, Carl. Thanks for sharing that with us. And yeah, it would be fun to fly into Oshkosh and some general aviation airplanes. I don't know. It sounds pretty dangerous to me. I'm not sure I want to do that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Rick and I'll fly.
Okay. Well, that's even more reason for me not to want to.
Can be passengers.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. A four-seater. I'll come to Atlanta. You can fly me there, Steph.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. More audio feedback.
Hey, Captain Jeff and APG crew. It's Captain Steve from Acme Jr. Just listening to episode 231, and you were talking about a pilot asking for a phone number from the female controller, and how that's a dangerous proposition sometimes. I think Steph was telling that story. But just this last week, we were at a very small regional airport, and it was a very slow day with us the only aircraft on the ground, and very quiet on the tower frequency as we were waiting to depart. And my first officer piped up and asked how slow and how quiet these airports are, and made comment to the tower controller about being a man of little ambition at these smaller airports. I tried to get him to stop because that voice on the tower frequency was questionable at the least. It's either a very manly woman or a womanly man, either way around. And sure enough, after he got that out, there was a long pause, and finally she came back and said, well, if she were a man, she would be a man of little ambition. And it was a moment of embarrassment, and we got ourselves right out of there as quickly as possible. Anyway, guys, have a good day.
Yeah, if there's ever a doubt, don't use gender, pronouns and that kind of thing, because
yes.
What's funny about that is that when you hear a voice like that in my ear that sounds female, but to the person sitting next to me that sounds male, and we have these discussions a lot. Is that a guy or a girl or a gal? And it's like, I don't know. I said, well, let's don't
keep it neutral. Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll hear somebody say yes sir when given an instruction. I'm thinking, I can't believe they said sir, because it's clearly in my mind this is a female. Yeah.
Well, the other funny thing too, assuming this wouldn't come up really necessarily over the radio, but it just got me thinking about it because it happened to us the other day as we were in a store here in Anchorage, assuming relationships between people. In this case, my dad and I were, he had left his sunglasses at home, so we were looking at some sunglasses in one of the gift stores, and the sales or the cashier behind the counter correctly referred to him as my father, but he wasn't, I don't know if he was not listening or just paused for a beat, and then she goes, I think, is that right? And they were like, oh yeah, no, that's correct. And she's like, okay, well, one time I incorrectly assumed, that a much older man and a younger woman were, either father-daughter, grandfather-daughter, and they were actually in a relationship with each other. So.
Yeah, you never know. That's like going up to a lady and saying, "Oh, when are you due?"
Exactly. Yeah, there's just some things that you have to, maybe not make assumptions about,
Just
even though it's very easy to
do
do
it.
because our brains want to place everything in a category,
Right.
So.
Yeah.
My father used to tell me a story of one of his first officers who was very good at imitating people, and going into India, he used to love putting on an Indian accent on the radio when he was there, and eventually going into Mumbai, the controller obviously sussed that he wasn't actually an Indian. He said, when you land, you need to come to the tower and report, and you better be bloody Indian. So, realizing that he'd been rumbled, he went back into the cabin after they got the passengers off and persuaded one of the Indian cabin crew to put his uniform on and go up to the tower and pretend it was him, which I thought was a great way out.
He really did that? Did the guy agree to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, man. I don't know. I feel like in those situations, maybe you're just digging the hole even deeper.
I'm thinking too. Yeah, they start asking aviation-related questions.
Specific questions.
Oh,
Too funny,
man.
though.
That is funny. Okay. Another piece of audio feedback. This is from Andrew.
Hello, Captain Jeff. This is Andrew.
Is it hard for you guys to hear that?
Little quiet, but
it's a little quiet, but I can hear it okay.
Okay. I'll bump it up in the audio podcast, but we'll just have to use our keen sense of hearing to hear Andrew. So here we go.
Hello, Captain Jeff. This is Andrew, a long-time listener of your podcast. I really enjoyed listening to it. Thank you very much for all the information. But I have a quick question. The pilots of EK521, I'm pretty sure it's EK521, the Emirates plane that crashed possibly due to pilot error in Dubai, are those pilots going to have trouble getting employment in the future if it's actually, well, if it turns out that it was their fault? Okay, thank you for your show. Bye.
Great question, Andrew. Are they going to, what's going to happen with them? Are they going to still have jobs? Or are they going to be fired? Whatever. Was it that, remind me, Steph and Nick, the 777 that had the incident at Miami earlier this year or last year?
Yeah, where they took out the approach lights.
Was that Emirates?
No, that was, wasn't it Qatar?
Well, that's right. It was Qatar, or Qatar, or however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I know that in that case, somebody told me that they were fired before they even got to the Middle East to land. But I don't know how Emirates handles these situations, and if they are let go, I would imagine that's going to be a major obstacle to get around when they look for future work. So, what do you know about that, Captain Nick? Anything?
I know the Middle East airlines have been very heavy-handed in the past with disciplining pilots who, and sometimes it's something that has been almost outside the pilot's control, but has brought the airline into disrepute. So they consider that justification. There's very little employment law available to the pilots in the Middle East, so they can more or less, the management can more or less do as they wish. So that makes it very tough for them. So having said that, I think if the situation is such that someone has made a genuine mistake and it wasn't culpable in any form or manner, then there are lots of airlines who will look favourably upon these guys and would give them an opportunity to fly again. That's generally speaking the way it is. Even people who've made dreadful mistakes can eventually find employment again. Depends really on the situation and what the findings of any inquiry brings up.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, as you said, it really depends on the regulatory agencies for various countries. I know here, if something like that had happened here in the United States to a U.S.-based airline, I think that the FAA would be the agency that would basically hold the key to whether or not this person was going to continue flying for the rest of their career or not, because they can pull their certificates and that kind of thing, and no matter how much an airline wanted you to fly for them, you can't because you don't have the proper certificates to do so. I have also heard that there have been some companies here in the U.S. that have actually fired pilots for doing something that brought shame upon the airline, or basically in their mind hurt the reputation of the airline. But it doesn't happen very often. I think in most cases the airline is going to do whatever they can to defend you and represent you, and keep you flying for them, unless you have a big stack of negative letters or whatever.
I think what a lot of airlines do is they encourage pilots in a difficult situation to resign. That's what's happened, in my knowledge, to a number of pilots, in which case the airline gets the result it wants. You don't work for them anymore, and they don't necessarily carry a big black mark around with them, so they can usually get employment reasonably easily with someone else. But having said that, the airlines are quite a tight community, and the bosses of the airlines kind of know each other reasonably well.
Right.
And I'm sure there's an element of, oh, this bloke flew for you, and he no longer does. Would you like to give me the story on that? And if you're going for an interview, they will certainly want to know why you left your previous airline, and if the story that's out there and your story when you're interviewed don't gel, then it's unlikely you're going to get employment. I think the best thing generally is to come clean and say, well, I made a mistake with this airline, and they didn't forgive me, so I'm out looking for a new job. But you can be assured I've learnt my lesson, or whatever tactic you're going to take.
And another component of this is if you happen to be flying for an airline and you're represented by a union, that's another layer of protection that you may have as a pilot for that company. And so,
absolutely,
that's something else to consider. So in this case, I guess to answer your question is, Andrew, I don't know. I don't know what Emirates is going to do with these pilots, and what their future holds.
Yeah, and I don't think we've heard anything about that, so maybe we will in the future, and we can follow up on that if we do. But we may never hear anything about it either. So
we may not. You're right. All right. Let's see. Here's one for Dr. Steph. This is from Nick, not Captain Nick, but a different Nick. I spent last Sunday raising money for our local air ambulance in the west of England, the Great Western Air Ambulance, which included dressing up as a giant bear. And there's a picture here of,
it's a great picture
of Nick.
A giant bear what?
Let's see. Air ambulances provide an amazing service around the world, whether it's a fixed-wing service like the Flying Doctors in rural Australia, or helicopter-based services as we have here in the UK. It got me thinking, has Dr. Steph ever considered combining medicine and aviation to work for an air medic service?
Well, thank you for your question, Nick. The answer to that very specific question, in working for an air medic service, the answer is no. I'm actually really, really fortunate and lucky to have a job in medicine that I love. I like the things that I do there. I worked for a very long time before I ever became a pilot to reach that career goal of mine and where I am now. And I really don't see myself giving that up at any time in the future, but I think there's a lot of opportunities to combine those, two things, aviation and medicine, in the future. Perhaps doing one of these things more as a, on a volunteer basis. Certainly here in the U.S., there's, Doctors Without Borders and all that type of different volunteer and charity organizations. And I do know people who, not necessarily that they're doctors or physicians, but they do volunteer their flying services to get medical professionals, doctors, nurses, whoever, into various rural, disadvantaged places and do some good work there. And sometimes it is the physicians or doctors or whatever other healthcare professional doing their own flying as well. I think that stuff will be fun. Right now I'm a little busy with work to do a lot of that on the side. So for right now, flying is just what I do for fun, to de-stress outside of work. And it will probably stay that way for quite a while. But I think that's a great idea, great suggestion. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
I think that the charitable work that Steph is committed to at this time is the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
That's right. It is a charity case, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Of course it's not.
And we appreciate your charitable work with us. Let's see.
But actually, I really want the job as the dressing up as the giant bear.
Yeah.
Looks like fun.
Yeah, I wonder how much that pays.
I don't know. It's great.
Well, I think that it might now be time for that great segment we call Plane Tales. And the name of it is Elise Anderson. Interview Part 1.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. This week, something a little different. We're conducting an interview with Elise Anderson, who's starting out her career as a pilot in Australia. All right, APGers, we're sitting here at Jandakot Airport. It's in Australia, Western Australia to be precise. And we spent a lot of time on the APG talking about how young pilots get into aviation and what kind of a road they choose on their way towards a final career in a cockpit. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a word today with Elise Anderson, who's halfway through her journey, really, to the front seat of a huge airliner, hopefully sometime in the future. And she's out here in Australia and working at the Royal Aero Club as a flying instructor.
Hi, everyone. Well, when I was 18 years old, after being born and raised in Vancouver, I decided to pack my bags and head for Western Australia. Living here, I started a university degree in aviation and started my flying training. 10 years later, I've found I haven't yet made the move back to Canada, and I'll probably be here a little bit longer.
Interesting. Why did you choose this particular path to do a university degree, and was there something special about coming to Australia that made it easier?
Not necessarily degree-wise. I come from a family of many aviators, and so from a young age I knew I wanted to fly. Coming to Australia was more something to do that was a little bit different when I was 18, and once I got involved with the degree, which was something I'd always wanted to have under my belt, the ball just started rolling from there. I think that the degree for me offered an opportunity to work in aviation should I unfortunately one day not be able to hold a medical. I felt it might open a few more doors for me other than sitting up the front of the cockpit.
So you're one of the newest generation of commercial pilots joining the industry. Could you tell us a little bit about the kind of training you've done so far?
I began my training about 8 years ago at the Royal Aero Club, which is private training. I achieved a general flying progress test and moved on to a private pilot's license. From there, I had a few years to finish off the degree and save up the money for the rest of it. I completed my commercial pilot's license along with a night rating and an aerobatics endorsement, and quickly followed with an instructor rating. And I've been working as an instructor now for 2 years at the Royal Aero Club.
Oh, that's brilliant. That doesn't sound easy, trying to earn money to pay for your flying, etc. What have you been doing to do that?
damn near impossible. Through my aviation degree, I worked as a dance teacher, which was something I'd been a dancer since I was very little. I did that teaching kids how to dance, and I also work as a Pilates instructor. So keeping up those part-time jobs certainly saw me through uni and allowed me to save up the money, come and spend it all in one quick hit. And I continue to work those jobs now to support my flying habit.
That's a habit. That's a great way of describing it. So how do you see your career developing, and what kind of flying would you like to do in the future?
The next step for me would be to get an instrument rating. From there, there's a few opportunities that hopefully will present themselves. One is to remain as an instructor and hopefully build up some multi-engine time teaching on twins and possibly teaching instrument ratings. The other one is to try and branch out of the instructing field and into a regional airline, which there are quite a few of here in WA at the moment with quite a large mining industry. Start there and then possibly stay there or move on to a large international airline.
The big money seems to be flying the big jets. So is that your ultimate aim when you're, say, my age?
Yes, probably is the short answer. But what I'm realising at the moment is with the airlines that tend to be hiring the most, it's a matter of choosing the dream lifestyle over the dream job. So if I want to stay in Australia, which at this stage that's what I'm leaning towards, it may mean working ultimately for a smaller airline, doing more regional work. Alternatively, if I'm willing to move to possibly Hong Kong or Asia or the Middle East, I think there's more opportunity there for larger airlines.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. What kind of training do you think properly prepares new pilots for the problems they may encounter? And how do you feel about the hassles that sometimes face airline pilots because of their limited flying experience?
I very much believe that although I do love the time that I spend in the 152s and I love my current job of training pilots, I don't believe very firmly at all that it will set me up for flying an airliner. I think it's chalk and cheese and comparing two completely different job roles. So I really think that to get the best handle on it, possibly the cadetships that the airlines offer, where from the start of your flying training you are involved with a particular airline, you can study their fleet, become familiar with their operating procedures, as opposed to what the industry offers at the moment, which is spending a lot of time in general aviation, whether it be flying scenic tours in small country towns, whether it be instructing or other jobs, which simply is quite a shock to the system, I think, when you finally do get a foot in the airline that you'd like to spend time with. It's a bit of a revamp to your career to try and move really into what I find is a completely different job role.
Not aiming in that direction yet?
Not just yet. With my aviation degree, we did study up to ATPL level. So we have studied all the systems and performance and flight planning and everything of jets and of large aircraft, and it is of strong interest to me. However, with the job that I have at the moment, my focus is more on what I am flying and what's relevant to my industry and taking the further steps. So at this time, until I do venture into sitting my ATPL exams, I'm quite unaware and quite unknowledgeable, I find, about the jet industry and that type of flying, as I do need to focus my energy and my studies on making sure that I'm a good instructor for students learning to fly Cessna 152s.
Yeah, I can understand that. But so if you were to look at a future as an airline pilot and we're going to move up into high-level flying, long-range cruising, that sort of thing in a big aircraft, what kind of skills do you think you would need to learn to be able to cope with that?
One of the largest, I think, would probably be the multi-crew environment and the cross-cockpit communication. It's something that we did touch on in the university degree. However, from what I've seen, a lot of the personalities that you come across in aviation, to stick two of them together in a cockpit for 15 hours, I imagine, could be challenging at times. I also think that with the procedures of handling a long-haul flight in a large aircraft, it's just familiarising with all of your emergency procedures and being as confident as possible with the machine that you're flying.
Yeah, that's quite right. What kind of flying do you find the most enjoyable?
Aerobatics.
Well, that sounds quite understandable. Do you have much of a chance?
Here at the Royal Aero Club, we do sell a lot of trial flights and experience adventures to all sorts of people, whether they're interested in aviation or whether it was a unwanted 40th birthday present. They come down in all shapes and forms, and we do get to take them out and show them what the little 152 is capable of. So a couple of times a week I do get to go out and practice my aeros.
Well, that's part one of those interviews, and if you enjoyed that, I'll be looking to put part two into plain tales before too long.
What a great interview.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And, wow. I don't know, but I was going to say, quite erudite and well-spoken, very thoughtful in her answers. Very much unlike Captain Nick.
Brought up a true Canadian, and she's a go-getter, that young lady. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see her flying any aircraft that she sets her mind on. So yeah, she's a really nice young lady, and just the perfect example of the sort of people we need in the industry.
Absolutely, and you know, also goes to show that just because you have a love of aviation doesn't mean that you have to, you know, focus on getting to what, you know, where we're flying right now, Captain Nick and I, in the airlines. I mean, there's so many great jobs in the aviation world that people can do that and aspire to. You know.
That's exactly right. She doesn't seem to she seems to really enjoy her job at the moment. You know, training people, meeting sort of people and introducing them to aviation. That may change in the future, but for the moment, she's just interested in getting better at what she does, which I think is admirable.
Wow, I really enjoyed that, and I look forward to part two.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, some more audio feedback from that part of the world, actually.
Hello, Captain Jeff, Miami Rick, if he's there, the wonderful Dr. Steph, and old Captain Nick. It's Glenn here, Talon from New Zealand again, with some more feedback. I've been watching that YouTube video that Royal Morocco 737 nearly not taking off and crashing on the runway. The excuse that Royal Morocco came up with was weight turbulence from an A330, I believe it was. Anyway, I'm just wondering, I thought weight turbulence only affected aircraft that were landing, not taking off. Anyway, obviously there was more to it than Air Morocco want to admit. Like, a lot of people say the flap settings were wrong. Maybe I think maybe they weren't got quite the power, the speed to take off. Anyway, I'm just curious about your thoughts about weight turbulence on takeoff. I've never heard of it before, but then I'm not an expert. So anyway, clear skies, tailwinds, and Kavu to you all. Glenn out.
Thank you, Glenn. As always, enjoy hearing from you. And, you know, I have to admit that I was quite dismissive at first when the company kind of made that comment about, well, the reason why this happened had to do with the wake turbulence of a almost simultaneous landing of an Airbus 330, and perhaps it's because in my mind the airplane that had landed ahead was on like a parallel runway, and I really didn't do enough research to come up with a snap decision like that. And so I started looking more at the layout of the airport, looking at that video very closely again, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, perhaps I shouldn't have been so dismissive about that. If the Airbus 330 landed on 07 right, this airplane was taking off, I believe, on 18 on the western edge of the airport, and just kind of assuming that the Airbus 330 would be going overhead the takeoff runway probably somewhere around 100 100, 200 feet. And the clearance for takeoff was given 1 minute after that airplane landed. And based on my knowledge of wake turbulence and the rate at which it descends and dissipates, I started to think that perhaps I was maybe a little bit too hasty in my dismissal of the fact that wake turbulence could have been a factor in this incident. So to answer your question, Glenn, yes, wake turbulence is a factor for both landing and takeoff. In fact, that's why they give us a certain amount of time, spacing between airplanes for takeoff, based on the environmental conditions and also the size of the airplane that's, or the category of the airplane that's taking off ahead of you. And it can definitely, knowing from experience, getting into somebody's wake shortly after takeoff can definitely get your attention.
Yeah, it's not. It's wake turbulence can really affect another aircraft at all phases of flight. It doesn't have to just be landing, taking off. You can cross through someone else's wake as well. But obviously, it's going to be a little more critical depending on where you are in relation to other objects or the ground. So.
Yeah. So again, I mentioned that I went back and looked at that video of the the viral video of the Air Maroc Royal Maroc airplane kind of having a little issue with its takeoff roll, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking where the runway surface changes from what looks like concrete to asphalt, and where that is in relation to where 7 right, or the path of an airplane landing on 7 right would be, and I'm thinking, yeah, it happens to be right about the point where that airplane would have landed or flown right above. And knowing that wake turbulence in general descends about 300 to 500 feet per minute, and it goes outward about 3 to 5 miles per hour, or 3 to 5 knots. I'm thinking, I guess it's possible that it could have been some leftover wake turbulence that caused that little.
Affected by wind conditions too. So.
Right. The other thing that I was, again, the reason why I was dismissive at first was thinking that it was a parallel runway, that if this guy had hit wake turbulence, that you would see wing rock or something. And clearly in the video, there is none of that. It's the wings never kind of roll back and forth. It's always, it's just kind of coming up off the runway a little bit and then kind of settling back down and then taking off again. What do you think, Captain Nick?
I watched the video, and I'm assuming that this was reported in some form or manner. I don't know a lot about the incident, because it would be so easy to determine whether he rotated at the wrong speed or had the wrong flap setting, which are the two common
well,
faults, just by pulling the data recorders.
The interesting thing about this, and in the Aviation Herald, they talk about this. In fact, it was just 2 days ago, on the 30th of August, the BFU responded to an inquiry by the Aviation Herald of August 25th, 2016, stating the BFU had neither received any notification by the crew, airline, or airport involved, nor by the person taking the video, and became aware of the occurrence only through the release of the video into the public more than a month after the occurrence. The BFU argued that as a result, it will not be possible to establish sufficient facts and evidence needed for a detailed investigation. Hence, the BFU decided to refrain from initiating an investigation.
Because, of course, we're both well, we understand entirely that if you get a sufficiently severe wake turbulence event that settles you back down on the runway, or in fact any wake turbulence event, we're obliged to raise an air safety report.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're blameless, there'd be absolutely no reason for the crew not to do that,
mm-hmm.
which makes me suspicious. Since the crew didn't raise an air safety report, you have to think, well, why not? If it's a wake turbulence, there's nothing to be lost, everything to be gained. So perhaps it was a case of incorrect speeds or incorrect flap setting, and I do have read somewhere some remarks by First Officer Jeff saying that this looked like classic wrong flap setting.
Yeah.
So you do wonder where this is going.
Right.
But there seems to be no way to resolve it now unless there's a sufficiently high definition photograph or video out there that will show them where the flaps were.
Exactly. And I have to admit, I immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was some kind of a performance data screw up, or as you said, not having the appropriate takeoff configuration. And I kind of feel bad that I was so hasty to do that. I mean, it may still be that is what's happened, but until we actually share a beer with these pilots in a bar somewhere several years down the road, we'll probably never know.
No, that's exactly right. And it just goes to show that good discipline and willingness to put the paperwork in when you get an event that requires reporting does, in the long run, save you an awful lot of hassle, because if it was wake turbulence and these guys had written their safety report, no doubt would have been cast on their ability, whereas now an enormous level of doubt resides there. Now, the company's obviously taken their word for it, which is fine and view. I have no problem with that at all. And if they did have the wrong flap setting, we all know probably why. There's a myriad of reasons why they might have made that error. I would just have preferred for it all to be out in the open.
Yeah, and that way we all could learn something from.
Exactly right.
Well, and I mean, I think we probably all have, even if you're just imagining all of those different scenarios, they're all important things to take under consideration and use going forward. But in the end of it, it was a safe outcome too. So.
Yeah, they got away with it. But if they.
Exactly.
I
agree. I'm not saying that I don't agree that the information should all be out there and it would be a much better learning point that way. But it's something for everyone to consider and know what you would do in that situation too, which is make sure you do the appropriate reporting. So. Yeah.
On a shorter runway, they may well have not got away with it. They may well have taken out the approach lights, or even worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think it was extraordinarily lucky on their part.
Yeah. Our last episode was entitled "A Sheep, a Duck, and a Chicken," and if you listen to it, you'll know that it was based upon some feedback that we received from Grant McCarran, our balloonatic, talking about to put into the balloon basket non-human life creatures, and of course they chose a sheep, a duck, and a chicken. And we got some more feedback from Grant regarding the science of the sheep, duck, and chicken. He says, "Hey there, Captain Nick is correct regarding those first passengers, but he failed to mention the science of their selection. The sheep has a similar
science.
Yeah, there's science here. That's what Grant says. Let's see. The sheep has a similar body chemistry to a human and lives on the ground. If it survived, we had a good chance of surviving. The chicken is a bird that doesn't fly. So if the sheep died but the chicken survived, then there was something about a bird's physiology allowing it to live, and humans would need to determine what that was before they go fly. And then the duck was the control element. It should survive as it lived on ground and in the air. If it died, then it wasn't something to do with exposure to altitude." There's also the corollary to this, which may be apocryphal. Did I say that right? Apocryphal.
Yep.
Which is that the animals were slaughtered at the end of their flight, inspected, cooked, and fed to prisoners to ensure that there wasn't anything wrong with them internally that wasn't immediately apparent from the outside. Wow. I consider this part to be fancy but fun, whereas the selection criteria were definitely early science in action. Cheers. The G guy from Down Under. And that's Grant McCarran.
I just assumed that they're some of the tastiest things you can put close to a barbecue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said my
well, that may have been all. an
Got it.
alternate consideration.
Yes.
Not. There was also food consideration taken into account.
I was
But it
thinking
just
that
so happened that
they
science
just looked
worked
around
out
and
well,
thought,
too.
oh, let's see. Yeah, there's a sheep and there's a duck and there's a chicken. Let's throw them in there.
Yes. Yes, there you go. But apparently not.
Yeah, there's a lot more science involved in this,
Thanks
apparently.
for that, Grant. Now, I
Yeah.
was just curious to know which one was the pilot, Grant. So, which one do you take after, the sheep, the duck, or the chicken?
I guess you'll have to let us know. So, thank you, Grant, for your feedback. Wouldn't you like to fly? Oops. I need to learn the lyrics to this.
I think it's quite easy, mate. Would you like to fly in my beautiful balloon?
Okay. Well,
You said that 2 or 3 times.
Mess it up next time. You know, Nick, this is what I think about you.
I think I love you.
Okay.
I'm thinking there's a good job there's an ocean between us.
Yes, I think so too. Well, we've been going now for about 2.5 hours, and we've actually hit everything that I threw in that 235 mailbag. Now, we can go a little bit longer if you'd like, delve into the big giant feedback folder that still has more than 100 pieces in it, or we could
I think that
shut down.
whatever you guys decide to do, I am going to be leaving now to go get my day started here. And also because I only have 10% left on my computer, so I'm not going to make it very much longer anyway, because I can either plug in my microphone or I can plug in the power. I don't have I need to buy the cable that allows me to do both, but I don't have that yet. So either way, I'm going to be out of power here very shortly and saying goodbye no matter what. So.
Okay, well, thanks, Steph, for joining us on your vacation in Anchorage.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Always a pleasure. And look forward to seeing you again on the next episode. So enjoy your time while there.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Cheers, Steph.
Bye-bye.
Are you guys going to continue on?
I think we're gonna shut it down and
okay. Well, I'll just
call it a day then. Oh, you're gonna hang with us until the very end then? Okay.
I can do that. Yeah.
All right. Is that okay with you, Captain Nick?
Oh yeah, whatever you fancy, Jeff. I'm hungry, and I haven't eaten supper yet.
Me too. And there's some interesting feedback that I'd like to talk about in the next couple of episodes when it gets a little bit closer to the release of APG, the movie. No, Sully, the movie about the quote unquote miracle on the Hudson, and so I thought that might be interesting feedback to tackle as we approach the release of that movie, which I think is September.
It'll be very topical. I can't wait to see that movie. I'm a great fan of Tom Hanks, and generally speaking, he picks good movies to take part in. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I think it's a week and a half. I think it's September 9th that it's supposed to be released, if I'm not mistaken. So
the trouble is, we, like most pilots, will pick it to death because of the technical aspects.
Right. Yeah. It'll be hard for us to kind of look away or, give them a break.
You can't just enjoy the movie as a, entertainment experience. I know, but it's based on a true event, so that makes it hard in general.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen lots of movies based on true events, and I'm thinking to myself, what an absolute travesty.
Right.
Including that one about some American submarine that supposedly stole an Enigma machine off a German submarine, and which I still tear my hair out because there are people that think it was true and that it wasn't HMS Bulldog that did that. But there you go.
How about just one more quick thing before you go, Steph?
Okay.
One more piece of feedback that I just saw in here that it might be fun to read, and then we'll shut her down. Joe Skina writes, "Thank you for the recent plane tales about Bob Hoover. It reminded me of a flight many years ago where I unexpectedly got a chance to meet him. The year was 1989, and I was a brand new captain for an Acme Codeshare Regional in the northeastern United States, flying a Beech 1900. The flight was from LaGuardia to BDR. I'm not sure where BDR is. The weather was awful, very low ceilings and visibility all over the northeast. The first officer closed the main cabin door, checked the cabin, and then took his seat next to me. He said, "The guy in the first row looks like Bob Hoover." I turned around, and sure enough, he did look like Bob Hoover. The FO then told me to look in the coat closet. I did, and there, on top of the bags, was a Panama hat. That's what Bob Hoover was always wearing. As the first officer reached up to close the doors to the cockpit, I stopped him. I said, "We're not going to close the doors to the cockpit with Bob Hoover sitting right behind us." We took off, went immediately into the clouds, and stayed there until right before touchdown. Afterwards, he came forward and thanked us for a nice flight. As I recall, the weekend was a washout. I'm not sure how much flying he got in. And again, that was from Joe. He's a Airbus 320 captain for Spirit. And wow, talk about intimidating.
Right? No. We'll just leave that door open too, so we can see.
Yeah, I would say let's definitely close it. I don't want him to see any mistakes I might make.
Exactly right.
Or I just invite him up there and say, "Hey, did you bring your pitcher? What was it, iced tea that he'd always do in his Shrike Commander? You know, you do a barrel roll and pour a cup of tea while doing the barrel roll." Amazing.
I'm trying to think. He had one hand on the glass, one hand on the jug. What was he flying the aircraft with?
I'm not sure. A pretty amazing pilot. And by the way, he's still alive.
Still alive, yes.
And kicking. Okay, that's enough. Steph's about to run out of battery, so
yeah, 7%. It's
okay.
Quickly dwindling down.
Okay, so if you want to follow us on social media, Steph, how would they do that?
The best way is to find all of us together on Twitter at APG Crew, all one word there. That's our Twitter handle. You can interact with one of us or all of us or however many you feel like. We are also on, there's a Facebook page, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy, I believe. If you would like to stay in the chat room forever, you can find that on Slack. There's an app called Slack. You need to get in touch with Hillel on Twitter for that, and his Twitter handle is, let's see if I can get this right, HI11E1, and ask him for a invite to that. What else?
I think that covers the. You mentioned Facebook, Twitter,
Slack. Yep.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And don't forget about the great iPhone and Android apps created by Paul Whittle, the app guy. You can find those at the Google Store for the iOS version.
Oh, yes.
And we try to put out push notifications for when we're about to record live and when the audio podcast is released, etc. And also our great website by Arash Mahin, and that's airlinepilotguy.com. There you can learn about the APG crew, the APG community, the coffee fund, and all the rest. So thanks for listening to us today. We do appreciate it. We hope to see you and hear from you again on a future show. And until then, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Take care, y'all.
Bye, everybody. Cheers.
Ta-da.
6% and counting. Well done, Steph.
6%. I made it. That was like.
That was well done. Perfectly timed, if you don't
know.
understand.
Oh, no. Well, I know it lasts, like, if I'm doing all of this and have everything going and using the internet, it's going to last about 2.5 hours. So I was like, all right, we'll see how much I get through.
That's the MacBook that normally is supposed to last about 12 hours or something?
It is, but once you plug in a microphone to it and ask it to, do a whole lot of processing with YouTube and Google Hangouts,
it's amazing how quickly
battery life.
The battery when you're doing all what we're doing right now.
I can't believe you can't plug a microphone and a power source in at the same time.
Well, you can. You need this special adapter to do it, which I have not purchased yet, which I will be purchasing, but.
Another $50 worth.
What are these plugs called? USB-C?
C.
Yeah, that's all it has. It just has a USB-C plug.
Oh, Lord.
There's one input.
How are you putting the microphone into that?
I have a USB to USB-C.
So yeah, what you need to get was one of those, what do they call them, USB-C docks?
Yes, they have one of those, and I need to get that.
So you can keep power going and everything else.
I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. That's one of the drawbacks of using the iPad to do a show like this, because if you're powering something through that and you're connecting it to the Lightning port, you can't keep any juice going into thing. But I think that they just came out with a new adapter which allows you to do that. But anyway, that's technical stuff that nobody cares about. But
before you
very
disappear, Steph, Micah's just saying he still needs to phone you for some reason.
Yes, I know.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I already checked there too. All right, and now it says low battery. Your Mac will
Okay.
sleep soon unless plugged into a power outlet. So
Get out of
Soon
here. Go
blow
eat.
up. It'll soon melt.
time
Please
for lunch.
say hello to your dad for us.
I will. Yeah.
Enjoy the snow or the polar bears or whatever you have
No,
up
it's
there.
going to be 70 degrees today.
Oh,
That's
all
right.
the snow will melt. No wonder.
No,
Gosh.
there's plenty of snow up in the mountains. We can see it from here. All right.
Have a great time, Steph.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right.
Nice show, Jeff. Nice show. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I don't feel like I'm dying, which is fantastic, because normally we're like 5 hours later than this.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how you do it. It's like, yeah.
I'm just an old man.
Well, I know that makes it even more difficult, I would imagine.
No, I think us old men don't need so much sleep for some reason. I
Oh,
don't know
that's
quite why.
Yeah, you only eat half a normal amount of food. You know, you split your entree and you get an extra plate. You only have to have 4 hours of sleep.
That'll be the day. Yes, I am still sober, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to go and
beers.
get some good food here in Memphis soon. I
Memphis.
asked my co-pilot if he wanted to join me on the show. I said, I got an extra mic if you want to. And he goes, no, I wouldn't know what to say. So we don't either.
Yes, right.
We just
Join
fake
the club.
Exactly right. Anyway, so thanks everybody in the chat room for hanging with us this evening, and I'm glad we were able to do it earlier in the day. I like doing it earlier rather than later. Usually it's because of Steph that we can't do it much earlier because of her job, but luckily we caught her while she was on vacation.
Superb.
Yeah, barbecue, Liz, most likely, absolutely. Memphis is known for their barbecue.
I'm trying to work out of an American city that isn't known for its barbecue.
Yeah, that is. Well, I think the Pacific Northwest is not known for their barbecue, and now there is a difference between grilling and barbecuing. A lot of people on the western coast equate grilling and barbecuing as the same thing. In the South, though, you don't make that mistake. Barbecue is something that is cooked low and slow, low heat, for a very, very long time, usually using some kind of wood or, to get that smoked flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
To open up your grill and, turn on the gas and throw some steaks on it is not, in the South, you would not call that barbecue. You would call that grilling.
Oh, okay.
That's the distinction made, and I learned that right away once I moved from California to Mobile, Alabama. That I properly used the term. Yeah. So Liz says she grills, she doesn't barbecue, and I do both actually. With my big green egg, I can do grilling, like when I want to throw the steaks on there, or I can also cook something for 12 hours and actually do a proper barbecue, like pulled pork. So
yeah, that sounds
anyway.
Nice.
But Memphis, Tennessee. See, I prefer Tennessee barbecue, Georgia barbecue to Kansas barbecue, and I know there are a lot of people listening to this right now are going, "What?" And I really, as far as beef barbecue is concerned, I'm sorry, but I really prefer the Texas version of beef barbecue using mesquite wood. I just love that. Do I cook ham, Captain Jeff? No, I have not tried cooking ham on a big green egg.
I've barbecued a whole ham. I've barbecued a whole turkey. So
I've done a turkey.
Christmas sometimes.
Yeah, turkeys are wonderful. And in the southeastern United States, I mean, I think the wars have been fought over what is really considered barbecue. I think in the southeastern United States, they say it's got to be pork, it's pig, that's barbecue. In Kansas and Texas, it's beef. Probably in Oklahoma
Interesting.
as well. Yeah, I love it all though. I'm an equal opportunity barbecue lover.
I used to, Liz, but now I've gone to gas.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Gas
So
is nice. It's
I'm a
convenient.
griller. I'm a grist, or as the South Africans just say, I cook on a braai.
A braai.
Yes, that's their term for a barbecue.
Really?
Braai. Yes.
What does that stand for?
BRAI, I think. Having said that, in the old days, we used to be able to bring meat back to the UK from South Africa without really any real problem. So I used to bring whole sirloins back, and they were beautiful and very inexpensive. So I frequently used to take an entire sirloin and chuck that on the barbecue and slow cook that. That was absolutely delicious.
Oh, you're making me so hungry now.
At Liz says she has gas. Yeah, I'm
Well,
sorry about.
Yeah, it's a personal problem.
You can take some pills for that. I know.
Good thing that we don't have smell-o-vision. One of the things that's really good here in Memphis, I've found, is their ribs. Good ribs.
Yeah, when it comes to ribs, I love ribs, and there's a place, the Houston's in Pasadena, I go to whenever I can, because they're ones that can cook it so it just pulls
just
apart,
like falls off the bone.
Absolutely delicious. And I've tried so many times to do something similar, and I don't know how you get that softness. I can cook it as slow and as low as you like, but it still is firm. It's okay to eat. It's fine to eat, but it just doesn't have that flakiness. I don't know how you get that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've tried to cook ribs many times. I've never gotten to the point where it just falls off, like just shreds apart.
I mean, I've even gently boiled it in the bag beforehand to try and really slowly cook it, and then just browned it off on the grill. But it's still not quite the same. It's still.
Do you pull the what do they call that that skin that's on the back side of the ribs? I forget. There's a certain term for that.
That.
Do you separate that from the
membrane? Yeah. Well, I try to as much as I can.
I hear that's part of the secret to getting it really tender. Yeah. Liz, no, Rendezvous is a famous restaurant here in Memphis they're famous for their dry rub ribs, and I've gone there twice in the last 20 years, and I just don't know why people think that the Rendezvous is such a great place. I've never thought that it was just amazing. It's like, it's another barbecue place to me. I know that's heresy to a lot of people, but my favorite place here is not the Rendezvous. So,
silver skin, a lot of people are calling that.
Yes, I knew there was a term for that. I got half of it. I got skin.
Just give me some skin, bro.
Oh boy.
Oh well. If it's not beer, it's barbecue. We've invented a new topic to talk about, Jeff.
Beer, barbecue, and what's something in flying and that starts with a B?
Bombers.
Yeah. But we talk more than just bombers.
Yes, we do. I don't know. Boeings.
There you go.
There you go.
That's our new subtitle. ABG.
Beer, barbecue, and Boeing.
Beer, barbecue, and Boeings. No.
I love it. Yeah, I could live with that.
My girlfriend braises them in beer for 4 hours, followed by a little time on the grill, and the meat falls off the bone. Ooh. Wow.
Are we still talking barbecues now?
I think so.
Okay, fair enough.
Braises them in beer. So is that like simmering? How do you braise something?
I don't know. I thought braising was something you actually did when you were soldering something. The kind of low
that is
temperature
also
soldering.
Copper soldering is also referred to as braising.
Yeah.
I think technically. Yeah, but I know that braising is a cooking term as well. It's almost like roasting in liquid. Is that right? Would that be braising?
Yeah.
I don't know. My
Hi, Mark.
stomach is actually
2012 also
literally
says.
growling.
Okay. Yeah. Braise.
I will get the recipe and email it to you guys. Okay. Excellent.
Oh, wow, brilliant. Hey, we can have a whole new section.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Captain Jeff's
Sorry.
barbecue tips.
Yeah. Okay. Nelson, good to see you there in Portugal. Hope everything is going well for you. And all right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and shut down the stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to fill my tummy with something.
All right. Well, thanks, Nick.
Badger champion.
What time is it now? Is it 10 o'clock?
9.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because I'm in the central time zone. That's a decent hour to go.
Yeah, absolutely fine. It's perfect. I'll grab a bite to eat and hit the hay. And
all right.
Still got a few days off at the end of this, so I've got the whole weekend off, and then Monday I think I'm off to Barbados on Tuesday. If I'm not
okay. I'll be in Orlando on Monday, and somewhere on Tuesday. I should probably look to see where that somewhere is. I purposely bid Orlando so I could meet up with my son and I thought I could watch his show on Monday night, but I didn't think about the fact that it's Labor Day here in the States.
Busy.
And so he's probably not even going to be there. I think he's driving home tomorrow to be in Atlanta, and there is no show. So anyway, so I'll be in Orlando on Monday and Dallas Fort Worth on Tuesday, and back home on Wednesday. So
Mike,
as shows are concerned, yeah, go ahead.
Braise is like cooking a pot roast.
Oh, that helps. How do you cook a pot roast?
Ribs in a pot roast. I don't know.
That doesn't really help.
Come on, Micah, get with it.
Man, I tell you. Come on, Micah. By the way, if you ever listen to the Tech Guy podcast so it's a syndicated tech show on the weekends here in the States. If you ever hear somebody from Maine named Mike, it's Micah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
I knew that was one of his favorite shows.
Yeah, I think Micah, I think I know the answer to this, but when the call screener asked what your name was, and you probably said Micah, but they probably heard Mike, you just, because you're so polite, you didn't want to correct them, and now forever and more, you're going to be Mike when you call into the Tech Guy show. Is that the way it works? I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to the show and doing other things, and I hear, yeah, and coming up next, we're going to have Mike from Maine. And I'm thinking, I know Mike from Maine.
Brilliant. What sort of things do they cover on the Tech Guy show? I have yet to listen to it. I need to put it on my list of podcasts.
Oh, just people call. It's a call-in show. He spends a lot of time with the callers, and then he likes talking as well, as I do. And he probably gets one call per segment, 4 segments in an hour. So, he gets maybe 4 or 5. Mike is saying, they never hear his name right, so I just let them call him Mike now. That's what I figured. And it's stuff about like smartphones and computers and cameras, anything to do with technology. I think, what does he say? Anything that has a chip in it. People have questions about, how to do this, how to do that, having a problem with this, whatever. So he's kind of like, that's what he talks about.
Well, I'll have to find that.
It's fun. It's interesting. A lot of good stuff they talk about on that. That's you can just find it at techguylabs.com, I think, where you can listen to the show.
All right.
Anyway, with that, I think I'll end the stream, and not sure when we're going to be doing this next week. I have a feeling it will probably be, I don't know. When do you say you're going to be in Barbados on Tuesday as well?
I leave for Barbados on Tuesday.
Okay.
and I come back. It's an overnight flight back, leaving Wednesday. So
Okay.
I arrive Tuesday and leave Wednesday afternoon, evening-ish.
Probably not a good time to do a show when you're in Barbados.
I don't know what the internet's like. I hardly ever do them, so I haven't a clue. And the hotel's been changing a lot recently. I wouldn't have thought the internet would be brilliant there.
Okay. Maybe later in the week then. Maybe Thursday would be a good time. I'll be at home, but
Monday's good. Thursday I'll be landing, so I'll be home in the morning. I can do it in the afternoon, evening without any problems.
okay.
As long
Well,
as it's
Monday
not
might
too
work.
late.
Monday might actually
And-
work for me.
All right, super. And Friday, I'm probably free, although it's my birthday.
Oh, wow! Happy birthday early.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
All right.
And then, of course, the following week, I'm out in Atlanta.
Oh, that's right. I'll be in Dayton and Tampa.
Yeah, you're avoiding me, I know. And then on the 15th, I go and see CJ, the C-130 guy we met at Farnborough, up at Mildenhall. So I'm hoping to do a little bit of a chat with him, take some pictures. Obviously, going to enjoy a look round one of their C-130s. And that should be fun. Should be able to do something for the Coffee Fun cadre.
Oh, nice.
Which would be
nice. Hey, Nev is kind of pimping you a bit in the chat room. I don't know if you saw
that'll
that.
make a change.
They were talking about the tech guy and things they talk about. And Nev says, "Do they talk about the importance of having your mic the right way around?"
Well, I was relying on the experts to do that after you guys plugged it in there.
The handlers, you can't count on those people.
I'm just the talent.
I know.
Yeah.
You can't expect the talent to know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. What's the matter with you? I had no idea there was a right way around for that microphone. I hadn't had it that long.
I mean, I was sitting right next to you and I didn't notice it either, so I'm at fault as well.
I mean, I should have twigged the fact that the little red light wasn't pointing at me.
Yeah.
But there you go.
I am so incompetent, Nev says.
Yeah, I know, Nev.
Right.
You already had a million other things to do.
Yeah. Thanks again for all the hard work, Nev.
Oh, it was a brilliant
effort. That meetup you videotaped and recorded in Amsterdam was just amazing. That was great. Great to see everybody. Somebody had commented, sent some feedback in, or maybe it was somebody that commented on the YouTube video saying, and it was, I know who it was. It was Dave Abbey. Is he with us right now in the chat room? I think he was earlier anyway. He said that just goes to show, what a great community this is, and the fact that everybody was so comfortable being in front of the camera and with a microphone stuck in their face when Nev did the recording. And I mean, that I took away the same thing. It was like, wow, everybody's just a natural, just talking in front of the camera, and Masha noticing Nev's equipment, which is something that
Masha noticing Nev's equipment.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that in public?
Yes. Well, she did. Have you seen that? You need to watch it. Watch that video. It's fun.
I think I did actually. I noticed there was a little.
In fact, I think we played it on the show, the audio of it.
Excellent.
Anyway, well, go get something to eat, and we'll work out when we're going to do the show next week. And thanks again, everybody, for hanging with us. And yeah, exactly, Nico. That's what she said. And signing off from beautiful Memphis, Tennessee. We'll see you guys.
And from Leafy.
See you guys around.
All the best. Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers to you as well.